All right, and welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 World Tour. We are already in the air here in southern Greenland. We're still in this little bit faster plane. We are heading along the eastern coast of Greenland on this flight. I'm going to try to make it to Iceland. We'll see how far we can get. We'll have to go over a lot of water to get there. It's been a while since I've done a video here in this series. Actually, in real life, traveled to Glacier National Park in Montana on a family vacation, and then my girlfriend and I went to Banff, Alberta, which was absolutely incredible, and I kind of want to fly over those in the game here, but we are now in Greenland, and I'm trying to stick to my real-time fly from one place to the next place, so I can't just teleport to Banff and cheat like that. So we're going to continue on in Greenland, go on to Iceland, then into the UK and into Europe and all those good things. It is currently 9:53 a.m. East Coast time on Sunday, July 24th. As far as podcasts, I think we're going to listen to the Friday, July 24th. The Friday, July 22nd episode of Tony Kornheiser's show, and then maybe after that, listen to the Friday episode of the Sharp and Benning radio show from Omaha, Nebraska that I like to listen to. But like I said, we're in southern Greenland, cruising up the east coast on our way to Iceland and eventually the UK. But here we go with the Friday, July 22nd episode of the Tony Kornheiser show.
Previously on the Tony Kornheiser show.
One of the things that's great about newspapers is the inherent history.
Center Beechcraft Alpha Sierra X-ray
Alpha Sierra
Gibson.
He was the first great investigator of the border. And you gotta know who Long was because he was the first great newcomer. And you gotta know Red Smith and Shirley Baldwin because they're the greatest sports writers of all time. So Joe Atkinson, I love you, but you gotta know those people. Of a young age. What the hell is that?
The Tony Kornheiser show is on now.
I was channeling my inner room. From Bob Walsh in Wethersfield, Connecticut, as in years past, I'm requesting your help to get the word out about Summer of Littles, which is taking place this year on August 6th. I believe that's a Saturday, right? August 6th, maybe?
Yes.
In 34 cities and towns in Australia, Canada, and in the United States. Summer of Littles is an annual gathering which provides your listeners with an opportunity to meet fellow Littles in their local communities. This year, in addition to the usual restaurants and breweries, there are venues in ballparks, a bookstore, and once again at Bell's Up Winery in Oregon. To make sure that Littles who are hopelessly remote, agoraphobic, or just prefer to stay home and eat over the sink are included. Sounds personal. There's also a Zoom call referred to as the virtual venue. So once again, Summer of Littles takes place on August 6th. What date of the week is that?
That is indeed Saturday.
Yes. Littles
Saturday.
can learn about this year's event and RSVP for the venue of their choice by visiting the website summeroflittles.com. That's from Bob Walsh in Wethersfield, Connecticut. We have a lot of personal things to go through on the show before we start the show. One is this show, and me personally, extend our condolences and sympathies to the family of Terry Lindsay. Terry Lindsay passed away recently. He, along with Mandy Orsman, built huge car businesses in the Washington, D.C. area. I knew Terry Lindsay a little. I know his son Chip. We're very sorry and extend condolences to the entire family. We also thank, on a personal level, and I think I'm right on this, John Fitzpatrick, because once again, someone from the White House sent Michael and Liz, tell them what you got.
Oh, this is a celebration of our third child.
Yeah.
The captain.
And signed by the current president, Joe Biden. Others have been signed by the former president, Donald Trump. And John Fitzpatrick used to work in the White House. I don't think he does anymore because he moved to Colorado, but he still has connections. So I'm going to assume that we should thank him. I got this for you, by the way. That you said you love the Drifters.
Oh, yes.
So I got that for you.
Save the Last Dance for me at 45 from Atlantic Records. It's fantastic.
From Peter Jennings, not
play
that
in the
Peter
convertible.
Jennings. Our shopping tour of New Zealand candy stores has regrettably come to an end. Hope these meet your exacting standards. Golf bling to follow with separate shipment from Peter. I have a bunch of candy from New Zealand here, which I will share with everyone on the show.
Did you get a tracking number for the golf bling?
I didn't do that yet. No, I didn't do that. My thanks to Chris Lindsley, who sent me a book about Funland. He wrote a book about Funland in Rehoboth Beach. My thanks on that. And I played golf the other day with a guy named Ian Knight at Rehoboth. And big, strong guy, born and raised in Canada, lives in Delaware now. We were talking about the fact that he had a cottage in Canada that his father originally bought around a lake. It's actually at Lake Huron, I think. We were just talking, and he started talking about a book by George, is it Pepper or Pieper, do you think, the former editor of Golf
Let's go with
magazine,
Pepper.
called 2 Years in St. Andrews. We were just talking about it. He sent it to me, which is very, very nice. I appreciate that. Really nice. I wanted to congratulate. I want Michael to see this. I don't know how many of you people saw it. Remember Dave Sims talked about the panel he was hosting? Right.
Yes.
At the All-Star Game. It was a panel about diversity. It was essentially, the peg was Jackie Robinson and the 75th anniversary of Jackie Robinson, integrating Major League Baseball. And also that Rachel Robinson, his widow, turned 100 the other day. Turned 100. Anyway, on this particular panel, he had Andre Dawson, and he had Edwin Jackson, and he had Jimmy Rollins, and he had Tim Raines, and he had, and I'm blanking on the gentleman's name, but he is the curator, in effect, of the Negro Leagues Museum. And they spoke for about 50 minutes and then took some questions. It was really good. I'm proud of Dave. And I commend people to watch this. I'm sure MLB.com can get it for you. I'm sure they're proud of it as well. So I wanted to mention that. What else did I want to mention? I wrote these things down. Played with Steve Rose and a member guest last week at Rehoboth. We came in second in our flight. It was a very odd, our flight, let me just say this, that our score for second place in our flight would not have been second place in any other flight. Scores are different, flight by flight. We were in the next to last flight, the weakest, next to last weakest flight. But we played pretty well. We made some money, and by we, I mean me, because it's shop credit. Steve Rose doesn't belong, because it's a member guest, and I belong, so I ate his shop credit. So, Michael, I got some shop credit now.
Which is nice.
At Rehoboth. That's nice. Really nice.
Treat Liz to a sweater one day.
Yeah, I could happily do that. Or, stuff for the kids. They have small
they have a kids selection.
Yeah. They have small kids stuff. So I'll tell you the format. You're not playing, it's just 2 18-hole matches. And one of them was against people that were not even in our flight. It just didn't seem to matter. It was your best ball on the 18. Now, Steve and I get a lot of dots. We get strokes. I think I got 14 and he got 15, or I got 15 and he got 14, or I got 13. It was something like that. So if you get an actual par, a par 4, you can write down 3 net. It's a net event. You can write down 3 net. We did pretty well the first day. We led our flight. We were -5 the first day. We shot 67 combined the first day, and we were -5, and we led our flight. We won $75 worth of shop credit, which is good.
It's nice.
So the next day, if you have a natural par that becomes birdie on the score, you don't even care. You're not going to do better. You're not going to get a natural birdie. We aren't any good. We're not getting any birdies.
Who is the captain on the team?
Willis Reed's always the captain. He's the captain. And then Derek Jeter is the captain. Well, I played better than Steve the first day. He played better than me the second day.
Were you guys changing strategy based on what player 1 put into play?
Strategy? We're trying to just keep the ball in the short grass once in a while, not go OB. We don't have any strategy. We're not that good.
Please return cart to the path.
Yeah. So, and Steve played well the second day. I played well the first day. But if you're in a situation where you know you're not going to get better, it doesn't matter. You're concentrating only on those holes where you think you can improve. Because, for example, you have to pick up +2. Let me explain this. Let's say there's a par 5, and you're each getting a stroke. So if you each get 7, which is a double bogey, which is not very good. If you get 7, you write down 6 because it's 7-6. So you stop at 8. Because at 8, you're 7, and you're 2 over. And
this is a pace of play killer.
Yeah. So, but they designed it so it helps the pace.
Sure. On paper, it looks like it'll speed it up, but now you have people who are lining up putts for a 7-6 trying to save that bogey.
Yeah. So we had a few holes like that. We had some 5-4s on a par 3. We had situations where we could improve. And in 4 cases the next day we improved. We shot 68 the next day, net. It's not even really net. It's just we improved on 4 holes. We could have improved on 7 holes. Both of us missed situations where we should have improved. I was on in 2 on 1, and I 3-putted. And I got 5 for it. And I should have gotten 4-3. Steve had the same situation a couple times. Anyway, we got caught and passed from behind by a group we never knew. We don't know who they are, and so we didn't win. But we came in second in the flight, so we got an extra, like $25. So that's $100 each in shop credit. So that's $200 for me. And we had a good time. We had a lovely time playing, so it was nice. The weather was good.
Does that shop credit, does that extend to any outlet stores or anything like that?
No.
You take that to Calvin Klein?
No, can't do it. No, but I can, it's I can buy a nice pair of shoes.
Sure. Drive by the old Bass Outlet longingly.
Yeah, but I can't. Oh, the Bass Outlet's gone.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
it is.
It's not even there anymore. No, and that was my first choice outlet.
Thankfully, you're stocked up. Yeah, I was going to say, how many pairs do you have?
I still have
4
pairs. 2 or 3. And I'm not going to live long enough to use them. Don't worry about it. So what else do I have? Oh, the other thing I wanted, I'm going to at some point crush ADT security. I had an impossible situation with them yesterday. Absolutely impossible. They put you on hold, and they put you on hold for literally 40 minutes. For 40 minutes. And throughout the entire hold, they're telling you how quick their responses are when you need them. Well, I'm sitting here saying I need you, and there's no response. And I'm on hold for 40 minutes. And then I go through 3 different people to get something done. I'm done with them. Done with them. But I wanted to talk a little bit, because I know Michael's has opinions about this. The Charles Barkley thing with the Saudi tour. A couple of stories in the New York Post in recent days. One was that Henrik Stenson was going to give up his captaincy for the European squad in the Ryder Cup in order to join the Saudi tour and take their cash money. Michael, your thoughts on that?
Look, this was on the table with Stenson. They basically said to him, you have to make a choice, and you have to remember that at the time, the DP World Tour had a pipeline of future captains that was very long, and Stenson knew to pick his moment. He decided to side with that to get the captaincy.
Which is an honor.
Yes, this is an honor. This is back in the late winter when it looked like the Saudi-backed tour might never get off the floor. This is right after Phil's comments. It looks like it's beginning to grow a little bit, so he decides to go there. He's been crushed for it, but at the same time, you're beginning to look at what maybe 2 decades of the European team for the Ryder Cup could look like in terms of leadership, and you start to go, it's very thin.
They don't have Sergio. They don't have Westwood. They don't have Poulter, and those guys have been great Ryder Cup players. They're going to be banned from the Ryder Cup if this stands up. Anybody else they don't have?
It's beginning to look again. Everyone always said it's more than an exhibition. You start to say, no, it is an exhibition that is put on by 2 governing bodies.
Yeah,
making
fun to watch.
Very fun to watch, and it took on. Frankly, it probably took a turn for the worse after the 91 were at the shore. It never got more eyeballs because of that, but then you looked at how, on paper, the Americans should have been stacked for, 2 decades, and they ended up losing, and you look at the actual careers of...
Who's on the road often?
You looked at the careers of people like Ian Poulter, and part of that is the way that the European fans were able to rally together, and now that has been... put down a little bit. If you listen to some of those live players, the treatment at St. Andrews was not necessarily what the media was making it out to be. So, side note, for the record, the live story, I'm not tossing this to you. I'm getting very tired of all this stuff, but let's go back to Charles.
Yeah.
Would sell his relatives out for $200 million.
Would kill them.
Direct quote.
No, said for $100 million, I'd kill one of my relatives, even one that I liked. Charles Barkley is the voice and face of American sports on television now. He's it. I know Charles a little bit, like Charles very much. Charles has said he's thinking about getting involved with the Saudi tour. He's apparently pals with Greg Norman. They played around together the other day. Greg Norman is very smart, very conniving, and I say that with respect. He's very conniving. He's very smart. He has made some mistakes along the way in terms of public relations, but boy, he's gotten good players to go over there with the money that he's dangling. and he spaced it out pretty well so that there's a new story every week. So they're pals, Norman and Barkley, and apparently Barkley has been offered. David Faraday took this. We talked about this last week. David Faraday took their money, and Charles Barkley has been offered, or is about to become offered, their money. Charles Barkley, according to what you read in the paper, and don't believe it necessarily in terms of money, because my salaries are always wildly inflated, so you don't know, but it is said that he makes about $10 million from Turner. He makes a lot more from the countless, we've got to countless now commercials that he does. He does more than Shaq. He does the most commercials of anybody in the world. And they're always nice. They're always fun.
Yes.
They're always fun. So I would say that Charles probably, if the $10 million is true, and it should be, because he's the spine of that show, really. He's the person you go to see. Turner's not a major network. Turner's not ABC or NBC or CBS. Turner's like ESPN, and not, they're one rung below network television, which is why, and don't get mad at me, ESPN, but when ESPN has a big event, it puts it on ABC as well, because it's going to get more eyeballs. The over-the-air networks get more eyeballs.
That's how I found the ESPYs.
Yeah, it was on ESPN. It was on ABC.
Yeah.
That's what they do. That's what they do with the NBA Finals. Of course they do that. So if this is what Charles makes, $10-15 million a year, maybe $20 million a year for everything that he does, and they want to give him $100 million, who am I to scoff at $100 million? But I do think I'm one of those people who believes that there is a sort of a moral component here, and you need to think about it. Charles, in a story in the New York Post, said that he had talked to people who had mentored him in the past, and he mentioned Greg Gumbel and Brian Gumbel and Michael Wilbon. And he said they all said, take the money. Well, if they all said, take the money, I like all three of them. I really do. If they all said, take the money, maybe I should back down a little bit. But my position would be, and it's complicated for me because the United States does business with Saudi Arabia. The President of the United States just was in Saudi Arabia and was famously photographed fist bumping with a guy who everyone thinks gave the order to kill Khashoggi. Everybody thinks that, including Phil, who went for the money early on. So there's a moral conflict here. You can, I believe, take the position that if your government is working with Russia, if your government is working with China, if your government is working with Saudi Arabia, why can't you? Why can't you take their money and work with them? I respect that position. Would I do it? You never know until it's offered. It's not going to be offered to me, so I'm not going to have this moral conflict. So I'd like to think I wouldn't take it. But I don't know. I will love Charles just as much if he takes it. I don't know if that will hurt him in the United States of America with what he does.
Are you familiar with Space Jams?
I know what it is.
Okay, do you remember the scene when he goes to play pickup basketball and he walks shoulders slumping and be gone? You're just a wannabe. And you see the sad Charles. I mean, that's what you'd worry about. That you start to lose those endorsements. You lose, the March Madness and just sort of the general goodwill of every sports fan.
Yeah, and I would worry about that about Charles. So I'd make my decision informed by what the worst case scenario would be. The best case scenario is you get a lot of money and everybody thinks it's okay, and within the next year or two, there's a merger of these tours, and everything's good.
So this is where the timing comes into play. You talk about how smart Greg Norman is, whether it's been by his own decision-making or by the pressures outside of it, particularly, again, late winter by Phil. They have respected the timeline of a lot of players who are making these as they call it, business decisions as they're jumping over the live door. And you look at this and you say it's only going to become bigger as the PGA Tour again goes to a sort of a summer to a early winter to late summer FedEx Cup timeline, and there's people who are trying to cash all of that FedEx Cup money and then are going to say thank you, goodbye.
I think that they could do that after the FedEx Cup. I think that I think Cam Smith is a guy that goes. I always think the international players go. Matsuyama is said to be thinking about going,
and I think Matsuyama, based on the golf crazy population that he represents, would be the biggest piece and probably put some sort of compromise in play. But
yeah, so that's what I think. Ultimately, what I think is that there will be an accommodation made, and the two people who have been sitting at the head of the families, Jay Monahan and Greg Norman, will be gone. That's what I think will happen. I think there'll be other people taking their places and shaking hands and hugging and saying, as Marlon Brando said, and this is the way we make the peace. Right, that's what I think. So I think it's going. You gave me that look.
No, I'm giving you the look because you can probably hear it in my voice. I love golf more than anything, and this is, again, coming back to movies from a certain time. This is like Regina George for me. I don't want to talk about it, but I can't help talking about it. And it just makes me sad across all fronts.
Yeah. So, all right, we'll take a break.
Can I say a quick thank you?
Sure. Oh, please, I forgot about this.
This was a big day. Young Bootsy, 5 years old now, lost his first tooth, and imagine
right in the front, lower level, right in the front.
Okay,
wow.
I'll leave you this question. What do you think the going rate is for the Tooth Fairy? As I say thank you to Jesse Chernetsky from Mikutowski Woodworking.
Who did beautiful work.
We got 3 little, I'd call them treasure boxes.
Yes.
And they have embossed dinosaurs on them with the captains, the hammers, and Bootsy's Tooth Fairy box.
That's great.
And what's so great is someone recognizes what it's like to have 3 boys because they write the note, and clearly these will be used for rocks, more rocks.
They're beautiful things, and they also sent along some gummy bears, which
I have to stop eating the Albanese gummy bears.
Well, I gave you a whole bag to take
My
home to your
teeth are
wife.
rotting, and I've gotten fat.
It's really beautiful woodworking stuff.
So what
happened? Could you say the way I understood the Tooth Fairy was that when your tooth fell out, you put your tooth under your pillow, and then at some point the Tooth Fairy left some money.
What would you get? Like a quarter?
Yeah, a dime or a quarter.
Yeah.
Now I think I gave my kids $1 or something.
So with what is it, about $400 right now?
Yeah, with current inflation,
Kruger Rand.
But I think
But he has no concept of money. So right now he's counting coins. So he's
shop credit.
Shop credit. But it expires at the end of 2022.
So tell the people. So Bootsy is not, though, capable of taking the tooth out and putting it under
this was his first tooth. He's very cautious. The doctor told him to wiggle it back and forth. Again, these are boys who've grown up reading the Berenstain Bears go to the dentist. So he's terrified that the dentist is going to take out the yankers. And it's been hanging by a thread. So we decide he likes to be involved in dinner, so we get him a hot dog, thinking, we'll just take a big bite out of a hot dog, and that thing's gone. Gone it was. He swallowed his tooth.
Oh, he ate his own tooth. It's the first taste of cannibalism.
You could just see it as
he ate his own tooth.
You could just see in his face that he starts to realize, like, I got nothing for the Tooth Fairy.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So we had him draw a picture.
Well, okay, that's a good
What'd you give
substitute.
him?
$1.
No, like a coin dollar?
One single dollar bill.
Well, he's not going to know what that is.
He has no clue, but it's not like I'm going to Venmo him $100.
We'll take a break. Richard Justice when we return. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
You're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show. The Tony Kornheiser Show.
This is a ZipRecruiter ad. Are you excited to travel this summer? Have you ever thought about all the people who truly make a vacation great? Well, technically, in my case, they aren't people. They're my talismans and my amulets and my feathers. And they help out a lot. But that's just me. Don't compare yourself to me. It's a mistake.
Don't forget the shirt.
The shirt, my flying
That's
shirt.
right, the flying shirt, yes.
You know, outstanding talent is crucial for a successful business, and if you're hiring, you can find talent for roles like these and more at ZipRecruiter when you try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Tony. ZipRecruiter uses its powerful technology to find and match the right candidates up with your job. You can easily review these recommended candidates. You can invite your top choices to apply. Look, I don't run a business of any consequence, but if you do, you know that hiring is important, and any aid you can get in hiring is beneficial. And they're going to do this for free. What? Connect the dots, people. So travel to this easy-to-remember web destination, ZipRecruiter.com/Tony. That's where you can try ZipRecruiter for free. Even they emphasize it. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/TONY. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
This is the Tony Kornheiser Show.
Lift your head up above the glass. It's morning time.
This is sent to us by Kevin D, who writes, a good friend of mine who listens to you suggested I send over my music. Give it a spin if you feel it. I've attached 2 songs from my album, Perfect Middle Hall. The The first song is called Down the Mountain. The second is called Slowly By. I hope you and your listeners like them. Clearly has no clue who we are. Not zero. But his band is called Cactus Lee.
Yeah, but very talented.
It's very nice music. But when he says, a friend of mine who listens, like, what do? You know?
Well,
Like, who are you? Should I send? Who is this guy I'm sending music to? How is he going to help me at all? Who is this guy? So,
well, hopefully we bring him in as a listener now. New music.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah. Richard Justice joins us now. I had prepared a list of questions. I always prepare a list of questions at the end of my list of questions because I did not assume that what happened last night would happen. At the end of my list of questions was, Astros playing Yankees and what do we make of this? Well, the Astros beat them twice yesterday. And Aaron Boone, afterwards, I saw this clip, and I really liked what Aaron Boone said. He said, don't get carried away with this. We think we're a good team. We know they're a good team. If we end up playing here in the playoffs, we're going to show up. We beat them last year, okay? And I thought Aaron Boone was 100% correct in saying that. But Richie, this was in Houston, 2 games, big doubleheader. What do the people in Houston think of this, and what do you think of what Aaron Boone said?
I think he was exactly right, that the narrative's not going to change until we beat them in October. They beat the Yankees. The Astros had a week-long stretch against the Yankees, and Mets went 7-2. Against the Yankees this year, they won 4 out of 6, I think it is. But 2 out of 2. Yeah, 4 out of 6, and never trailed in the series. The only 2 games they lost were 9th-inning meltdowns, and almost had another one yesterday. But it doesn't matter. These 2 teams have such big leads. They're going to the playoffs. They've played before in October. The Astros have gotten the best of them. It's going to be who wins in October, and that's what makes the trade deadline so interesting. Like, you have teams that are like Seattle. We want to get to the playoffs, but when you're Houston, when you're the Yankees, when you're the Mets to a lesser extent, even though they haven't been to the playoffs, we got to fine-tune our roster for October. We want to win in October, and it's especially true in Houston. They 6 straight years in the playoffs, World Series 3 out of 5 times, but they've only won 1, and so they're in almost a panic mode to deepen their lineup a little bit. I mean, their pitching staff has been phenomenal. They lead the American League in team ERA, starter ERA, bullpen ERA, all that stuff. But they need another bat. Jordan Alvarez came back in his first at bat yesterday in Game 2, hit a home run, but they don't know when Michael Brantley's going to play again. They've done a phenomenal job. They have young pitchers that they've meshed into the rotation in this stretch. They have 2 young 25-year-old players, Kyle Tucker and Jordan Alvarez, both made the All-Star team. Done a great job, but you got to, ultimately you're judged by how you do in October.
There's one guy out there, and I didn't expect this, Richard, at the beginning of the year. I mean, I honestly never expected Juan Soto's name to be out there at the trade deadline. And I have my thoughts about that, what it means to the city where I live and what it means for fans of the Washington Nationals, who are now officially the worst team in baseball. But let's drop that for a second. Soto's name is out there. I would assume there will be a large net cast by a lot of teams to try to get him, right?
Yeah, the Mariners, the Padres, the Tampa Bay Rays, those are the 3 teams to keep an eye on. They have such deep farm systems that they can do that deal if they choose to do it. Seattle is especially a team to keep an eye on. They haven't been to the playoffs, as you know, since 2001, the longest stretch going, and they really want to get there. And they've done a great job. They go into the second half having won 14 in a row, playing the Astros a weekend series. They now play 7 games against. They play the Yankees and the Astros, so they get a little barometer on where they're at as a team. But they can make that deal. The Astros are pretty interesting in that I think they don't have a great farm system, but they have players you could use to make that deal. But it goes against everything they believe in that they want to be sustainable. 7 playoff appearances in 8 years, 6 in a row, all that stuff. And they want to keep going, and you can't do that. As I said, they've meshed those young guys in. If you keep trading those young guys away, and to get Verlander, to get Garrett Cole, they have traded a bunch of guys. I don't see them doing it. I don't see them being in the market. I actually don't see the Yankees being in the market. It's going to take a ton of talent to do that. But when you look at what's available on the market, Josh Bell's, is available. He's a good player, and he's been on a good roll. But he's not a franchise-changing player like Juan Soto is. There's two guys out there that fit that description. Luis Castillo, the pitcher for the Reds, and Juan Soto, changes the whole look of your team. Another thing, Tony, to keep an eye on is, I mentioned this with the Yankees and Astros. When you acquire a big star at the trade deadline, it energizes your clubhouse. And the Astros have played. They've won 25 out of 34. They're almost 30 games over 500. But they're a tired team, and all those teams are starting to drag in July and in August. You bring a guy like that walks into your room, it changes the complexion of your room. So that's why, the Dodgers, the Astros, the Giants, they have to weigh all of that. Is the energy. I saw it here in Houston in 2017 when Justin Verlander walked in the room, changed the whole clubhouse. Front office believes in us. They're willing to pay a big price to do that. Let's go get them now. So that's a factor too. And Juan Soto does that more than any other player, probably 5 times more than any other player that's available.
I don't want to keep dwelling on this, and I know I do, that Scott Boras could be the devil. I mean, Scott Boras is doing the job that players hire him to do.
Right.
Max me out. Get me the best deal in the world. It just sort of seems like Scott Boras has more power than he should have. I can't rail against it because he has accumulated this, and it has worked for him and his clients. I say it because I look at what happened with the Washington Nationals, and he kept Strasburg here, which is useless at the moment, and took a whole lot of players away. Is there, philosophically, I guess I have to concede that he's doing his job better than anyone does it.
Well, Strasburg is a good example because what happened there? The player took control of the negotiations. The player took control. Scott, push it as far as you can, get as much money as you can, as many years as you can. Ultimately, though, me and my family, we're staying in Washington, D.C. The player has to take control at times. If you allow Scott, I know one player told him, I want to play in South Florida, and he ended up playing for the Detroit Tigers. But that's the control he influences. This is why you should do this, that, and the other. But he also believes, above everything else, that the market, the free agent market, should determine a player's value. So that's why if the Nationals offer him $440 million, he's going to think, well, on the market, I can get $550. But if you've mentioned this on the show that puts Juan Soto in a position of risk.
I think.
Yeah, it's absolutely. How much money do you need? I've told you the story before when the Rays signed Evan Longoria long term. They told him, we think this is a great deal for us. And if you're the player we think you are, it maybe is not the best deal for you. But what they did was they took care of him when it found out that the contract was undervalued. So he's going to the market, and if you're the Nationals, you have to trade him right now, because a team that gets him, whether they sign him or not, is getting him for 3 pennant races, and that is a big deal. And if you let him go, this thing go into the off season, now it's 2 pennant races, and that's not the same value, because you have to expect you're not going to re-sign him, because Scott's going to take it to the market and play the hell out of the market, and nobody plays it better.
Thank you for saying all that, because it clarifies my thinking to a large degree, and I can get off Scott Boras for a while. The other day we had Kirk Gibson on, and he believed, and you probably believe this too, that the greatest surprise, positive surprise in the first half of the season is the Baltimore Orioles. Their game above 500 in the toughest division in all sports. In all sports. You cannot believe how good this division is relative to basketball or hockey or baseball, or football. You covered. That's a pretty impressive list of Kirk Gibson, Justice, and Kenny Rosenthal. What are your thoughts about as you think back to the Orioles and covering them?
I love the city. I love the franchise. I love the uniforms, the hats, the ballpark. manager there, Michael Elias, very, very well, and his top assistant, Sig Meidel, they have done a phenomenal job. But they had a plan. Not to bring it back to the Nationals, but did the Nationals have a plan?
No.
The plan in
They're
Baltimore
selling.
was, we're going to trade every piece we have, every piece of silverware in the drawer, and we're going to accumulate draft picks. We're going to have an open, our roster is going to be an open door, a revolving door, and they've done it. Look, Jordan Lyles, their pitching has been really good the last month. Jordan Lyles is with his 7th team in 12 season. Dean Kramer was the guy they got in the Machado trade. Tyler Wells was a Rule 5 guy. Spencer Watkins was released by the Tigers. Brian Baker was claimed off waivers. That's what you have to do. If you're a Nationals fan, not to bring it back to the Nationals, but their pitcher Austin Voth, wasn't he with the Nationals?
Sure.
He said,
They DFA'd.
you can't believe how much more information I got here and the plan that they had for me and the pitch usage and the different things they did with my mechanics. It's things I never had before. And if you're a Nationals fan, you go, wait, what the hell? How far behind have we fallen? When the Astros get a new pitcher, like Ryan Presley, their closer, who's retired 27 in a row, they take him into a room and set him down and put all the data up on a board and say, now, these are your best pitches. This is your best motion. This is what you should be doing. And he in the case of Ryan Presley, he just, whoa, it's too complicated. Just tell me what to throw and when to throw it. But the point is, you got to keep up. The game is changing, and the teams that are so far out in front in the use of data and what works and what doesn't. Rays, Yankees, Dodgers, Astros, Brewers, teams like that. But yeah, you're right. Now, if I'm the Astros, if I'm the Orioles, and I'm keeping an eye on things, I want to look at two things right off. Are they going to trade Trey Mancini? He's their most popular player, cancer survivor, a guy that's big in the clubhouse. The other thing is attendance. They've had 10 crowds fewer than 10,000. And this is the one thing about a total rebuild, is that, we found this in Houston, found this in Baltimore, when fans go away, sometimes they don't come back. They find they can live without it. The Astros, since their complete teardown, have never been back to 3 million again. Now they're 2.8, 2.9, and all that. Crowds did come back under Buck Showalter and Adam Jones and those guys, but not like it was before. It never was like it was in the early days of Camden Yards. So now the Orioles open the second half with 7 games against the Yankees and Rays. They're 24th out of 30 teams and 16,000 a game, but 10 crowds fewer than 10,000. You got to see if the fans are excited. This weekend against the Yankees will be a big litmus test for that, but they are a fun team to watch. This kid, Adley Rutschman, they're 30 and 22 since calling him up. He was the number 1 pick in the draft 3 years ago. Their starting pitchers have been good. It would be a cool thing if they could stay in the hunt down the stretch.
I know that Wilbon always talks disparagingly about analytics and only likes managers who manage by the seat of their pants. Managers who manage by the seat of their pants are sitting on a bus somewhere while everybody else is going on a private jet. If you don't avail yourself of analytics, that's not to say you have to be slavishly devoted to analytics, but you've got to know it. If that's true, if the Austin Voth story is true, and I'm sure it is true, it speaks very poorly about the Nats, doesn't it? It does.
It does. And the thing is, you say, well, we invested in payroll. Well, that's not enough anymore. You have to invest. You have to take... Michael Elias didn't make a lot of friends in Baltimore when he got there because he laid off a lot of people. But what he did was he invested in infrastructure, in hiring data analysts, people to give us the best advantage we can. That's how the game has changed. But don't call it analytics. Call it information. And you're saying, I don't want analytics. Are you saying you don't want information that you don't know? You don't want to know what pitch Mike will get Mike Trout out on? Well, you don't want to know what's the best pitch you could throw in this situation. That's really all it is, where this guy's going to hit the ball and all that. There is a certain seat of the pants issue. There's a famous story about Tony Gwynn, like a suspended game, a runner on second base, and he tells the third base coach, hey, be ready tomorrow. He's going to throw me a first pitch slider, and I'm going to slap it in the alley, and the game's going to be over. And he did just that. But the point was, now they have also have the largest analytics department in Major League Baseball. And I asked a guy, I said, why do you say that? How do you know that? Because their teams are very secretive about the size, the size and the sort of things they're working on and all of that. And he goes, well, I went through LinkedIn, and if a guy has a math degree from MIT, I don't figure he's a pitching coach AA. That's the world we live in. Has it made the game better? Like, I don't judge it like that critically. I just go, the game's evolving. Let's see where it keeps evolving to.
Yeah, you can't just have one guy, Jonah Hill, sitting in the back room. You can't do that anymore. Thanks, Richie.
Thank you, Tony.
Richard Justice, boys and girls. We'll take a break. We're going to come back with Noah Petro. He is a NASA scientist. This is a Nigel special. We're going to ask about the Webb telescope and what it is showing us. And I'm going to sound like a buffoon with some of my questions. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
This is the Tony Kornheiser Show.
Once again, this is sent by Kevin Dean. The name of his group is Cactus Lee. He has no regard for us, has never heard of us.
Big fan of the show.
Just sending his music out to whatever dope might play it. We're playing it because it's good. This is called Slowly By. Michael, if people like Kevin Dean want to send us their original music and see if we'll play it, how do they do so?
Send us your music by emailing it to jingles@TonyKornheiserShow.com.
It's lovely music. It plays in Noah Petro, who is a friend of Nigel's, who works for NASA and is an actual scientist. I'm not a science major. I flunked every science course I ever took, every math course I ever took. I'm a talking major. So we'll try and come to some accommodation here. There have been stories lately about a telescope called the Webb telescope that is apparently unbelievably better than the Hubble telescope. The Hubble telescope is something that I was told is the greatest telescope in the history of mankind. How is this better, Noah? How did this happen? What is this showing us that the Hubble didn't?
I think Wilbon said it best on Monday's show when he said that the Summer League was the stars of tomorrow today, and what Webb is the stars of yesterday today. What Webb allows us to do better than Hubble is peer into the distant past. When I say distant past, I don't mean 50, 100, 1,000, 10,000 years. They've already discovered the oldest galaxy we've seen so far, 13.5 billion years old. And so what Webb allows us to do that Hubble couldn't is measure these very distant, very faint, very small features in the universe with an accuracy that scientists could only have dreamed of with Hubble. Webb is performing better than anybody expected, and it's been 6 months, a little over 6 months since it launched, and already the discoveries that it's made are rewriting the textbooks.
Okay, so now is the beginning of the really stupid questions. If you tell me it looks into the past, I think, I'm going to open up a door in my house and Abraham Lincoln is going to be standing there. I thought the past was the past, that it was gone, that conceptually, I don't understand how it does this.
So, I know, I think the best analogy that I can think of, and I'm a big baseball fan, I don't get to sit in the Saliza seats, I usually sit in the Nigel seats. And so what happens when you watch a baseball get hit is usually, if you're sitting where I sit, you see the ball get hit, and a beat later, you hear the sound, or you hear the crack of the bat. Light travels faster than sound. Light travels at a speed 186,000 miles per hour, what we like to call in the business Jason Worth speeds. And so what happens is the further away you are from the Earth, light takes time to get to you. So from the Earth to the Moon, 1.5 seconds. When Neil Armstrong said, one small step for man, 1.5 seconds after he said it, it gets to Earth. Light cannot travel any faster than it does. That's just the way it works. So events that happened at the formation of the universe about 14 billion years ago, we think, light from that event travels. And if it happened very, very far from where we are on Earth, it's going to take time to get to us. And so when we look at a picture from Webb of a distant galaxy time to get to us. It took 13.4 billion years to get from when it happened to us. The same way if you're doing, a remote interview with Bob Ryan or someone on the other side of the earth, there's always a baked-in little bit of a delay. Well, that delay builds up the further from Earth you get, and these happen to be the most distant objects we've ever seen, it just takes that long to get here.
Are we seeing them, or are we imagining what they were because of the calculations from the speed of light? Are we actually seeing it?
Yes, we're actually seeing it as it happened that far in the past. So far in the past, the Nationals were actually good. So what you have to do is, it's hard. This is not, you're a doctor, but this is hard for even us to understand that light, but the benefit of being able to look this back in the past is that we see galaxies form, we see solar systems form, so we get this view of the whole life cycle of solar systems, of universes, and we get to use this tool, the Webb telescope, to kind of survey the sky and kind of see what's going on. Where are we now with the universe today? But we can recreate, okay, this thing was happening 13.5 billion years ago, and this thing happened a billion years ago, and we can look at planets in our own solar system and what's happening at those planets today, and use that to paint a broad picture of the whole evolution of the universe. It's very simple stuff, the whole evolution of the universe. And I do it because it's mind-blowing.
Do we think, as we watch these things, and we get more and more knowledge than we ever dreamed of, does that lead us to the closer conclusion that there is intelligent life out there other than us? Or do we think it isn't?
What Webb will do is help us understand where life isn't. The Webb telescope is built to do a lot of things, but it will not necessarily directly say, here is life on another planet. Right. But what it can do is help us say, well, there's nothing here there's no signs of water. One of the most important announcements that came out last week was not only the images, but some of the data of water vapor emitting from a planet around another star. And when I saw that, that was, for me, the most exciting thing, because I thought, holy smokes, we now can do that. What it can't do is say, and now there's other signs of life on this planet. But Webb is not alone. We have Earth-based telescopes. We have other objects, other telescopes in space that can look at these things. So it's part of a whole suite of telescopes on the Earth and in space that can help us address and understand where life is, maybe, or isn't. And the successors to Webb, the following telescopes, will help us refine that. But again, one of the most spectacular things that will happen from Webb are the things that we don't expect. So as much as I said, well, it may not, who knows? The future, right now we have at least 5 years more of operation time on Webb, and probably 15. And in that time, the pace of discovery is going to accelerate to a point where maybe in a certain amount of time we'll say, hey, here's a planet that looks like it has all of the ingredients for supporting life, and we throw every instrument at it, and that's where the joy in these discoveries will come.
Okay, so if I were doing the movie here, I would have somebody in space, some creature, some thing, and I would have this creature or thing looking at the Webb telescope and pointing his finger at it and saying, get this thing out of here, and just going zap, and it disappears. This thing's flying around somewhere. Nigel told me he got hit by meteors the other day. What is the danger? What is the danger that the Webb is just going to be brought down, like a duck at some point?
Well, certainly that's the danger. Webb is 1 million miles from Earth. It's in a part of space that is just like everywhere else in space. There are things flying through space. So yeah, they got zapped by a meteorite. Now, they expected that to happen. Now, they might not have expected to happen in the first 6 months, but it was within what hey, we know this is going to happen. It will degrade over time. So that was sort of part part of the plan that this is just going to naturally degrade. But again, it started operating so much better than we expected. So even in its degraded mode, and I'm not saying that what they're doing now is any worse than what they expected, but this is going to happen. So space is a risky place. There is always the risk that something would happen to it that we couldn't predict, can't prevent. Now, again, remember, if there's some creature a million light years from us right now, when it points its finger and says, "Stop looking at me," it's still going to take a million years for it. So it will take far too long for it to actually do anything negative to Webb.
These pictures it sends back are clear pictures. I don't have clear pictures on my television. These are clear pictures from deep space from a billion miles away? Really?
Oh, yeah. And the reason it can be so clear...
This?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
It's science.
Did you see Capricorn 1? You ever see Capricorn 1?
Oh, yeah. I talked about Capricorn 1 yesterday, and I think, people should always understand the process it takes from data coming down from a million miles away, processing. So when we see these images, scientists take the data and say, well, we calibrate it, we know how the instrument works to make it as clear as possible. And that's not, what I'm not saying is, it's not inventing or adding anything. That is the data. And it is, again, sharper than your television, than my television. But that's the way it was designed. It was designed to be able to do this, to operate at incredibly cold temperatures and return this incredible treasure trove of data.
So, honestly, when I think about these things, I am amazed that whoever had the original vision to do this, that other people got on board. This must cost millions and millions of dollars. Even the build on it. Who do you call up and say, build us? You know what I'm saying? It just it seems so fantastic to me. It's not like making a bat out of a dead piece of wood. It's not.
No. Well, the designs for this telescope started in the mid-90s. There was a recognition, okay, we're doing Hubble, what's next? We always are asking, what's next? And so with this, again, it looks very different than any other telescope. It doesn't have the long, shaft of a telescope. It's, again, in deep space. It was built at Goddard in Greenbelt, Maryland. Parts of it were built all around the world. This is NASA, this is the European Space Agency, the Canadian Space Agency coming together, and let's do this. So the price tag is part of the pun, astronomical.
Yeah.
But again, this is it. This is something that we've been paying for decades, and now the return comes to us. This is multiple Juan Sotos invested in deep space, and the science return, again, the textbooks that my kids will read, that your grandchildren will read, will be informed by the discoveries of this, and then the successors to Webb will only build on that.
Thanks so much for being on the show. I don't know how much I understood. I don't know how much anybody understands, but it's cool. It's a cool thing. Thank you, Noah.
Oh, thank you anytime.
Noah Petro, boys and girls. We'll take a break. We will come back with Email and Jingle. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
You're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
Chris Ullman, the world champion whistler.
World champion, yes.
He sent me birthday wishes the other days. Whistled me happy birthday the other day, Chris Ullman. Very, very nice. Now, do you want to do the Bethesda Bagel ad?
Yes, Bethesda Bagels. We love them. You will as well. Just go to BethesdaBagels.com for the location in the DC area nearest you. Then hop on in and you'll be thrilled.
That's just about it for us today. Before we get to the mailbag, let's quote Bruce Springsteen. There were ghosts in the eyes of all the boys you sent away. They haunt this dusty beach road in the skeleton frames of burned-out Chevrolets. They scream your name at night in the streets. Your graduation gown lies in rags at their feet, and in the lonely cool before dawn, hear their engines roaring on. But when you get to the porch, they're gone. On the wind, so merry climb in. It's a town full of losers. I'm pulling out of here to win. That's the greatest lyric he's ever written. May not be the greatest song he's ever written. Born to Run. It's not for me. Thunder Road is better. Others are better. That's the greatest lyric. Yes, that's just the greatest. Thanks to our guests today, Richard Justice and Noah Petro. Thanks to our sponsor, ZipRecruiter. Remember that you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, and Odyssey. If you get the show through Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. These are all new email.
And this is for a quick note for Robin. The Johnny O code TKHAM3 should still be active for the rest of the month, so thank you for asking.
Ham3?
TKHAM. This is for the hammer, TK Hammer.
3. He's 3 years old.
Yes, he's still 3 years old, that you wouldn't know.
He's got a nice wooden box now.
He does, and he has all his teeth.
Does he have teeth already?
Of course, he has teeth, yeah. The old Captain does not have teeth yet.
Oh, when did he get teeth?
That's 6 or 17, maybe.
I was laughing at this, like, joke. From Jeff McAleer in Springfield, Virginia, with news that Strasburg won't pitch again this year. I did not know this.
It's just
won't pitch again this year. I felt compelled to do some math. Since the World Series, Strasburg has thrown 528 pitches to the Washington Nationals. At a rate of $35 million per year, that's $105 million. That means for the last 3 years, Strasburg has earned $198,863.63 per pitch. My house is going on the market soon. I'd accept somewhere between 3 and 4 pitches for it. From Evan Salustro, Phoenix, Arizona. Listening to Tuesday's pod made me wonder how large a number $440 million is. According to the Wikipedia, expected GDP for the Dominican Republic for 2022 is $90 billion. Juan Soto just turned down a contract worth 2% of his country's gross domestic product. In Scott Boras, he trusts. From Aubrey Rucker, in Birmingham, Alabama. I drive an Amazon truck for a living. I think I'd have taken the $440 million.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, I get these messages all the time from Amazon. They say $37.50 an hour to drive. $440 million sounds better.
A little better.
Chris Mansell's in Forest Hill, Maryland. I graduated from Falston High School in 1998. Our mascot was the cougar, and our yearbook was called the Catamount, which of course is just another name for a cougar. You know what the Catamounts are in college basketball?
That's
Vermont.
Vermont, that's right. Yes.
A lot of cougars, Houston Cougars, but Vermont Catamounts. Drew in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I went to Richmond Hill High School. Our mascot was the Wildcat. Our yearbook was also called the Wildcat. We did not have a creative writing program. That's funny. That's funny. From Drew, from Brandon, Manitoba in Canada. Is this the new game, European Showers? If so, here is my submission. During my junior year of high school, my school offered the opportunity for the members of the French program to go on a trip to France, seeing the city of Paris, the region of Provence, and the city of Nice in that order. At the hotel in the Provence region, a no bathroom situation, the shower had 3 full-size tiled walls and 1 half wall. When I say it was a half wall, I'm not talking about a wall that raised up half the way. It traveled halfway horizontally. There was a doorway, if you could call it that stretched from the floor to the ceiling. The person I was rooming with and I tried to stop the flow of water with the towels in the room, yet it still flowed through the towels and threatened to reach the carpet in the main area of the hotel room. If that is not nerve-wracking, I do not know what is. P.S. Am I the only little who whistles or hums the Dan Burns song whenever they hear you open a yardstick? No, everybody does.
We all do.
From Ara Colians. Every year, our family of 4 load up the van and head to the beach for summer vacation in anticipation of the 12-plus hour drive. I usually save up several weeks' worth of your show to listen to. As we were driving through the Midwest, just south of Toronto, that's funny, I heard you mention the new Grater's ice cream and how terrible it is compared to the old Grater's ice cream. In that moment, I assumed that my wife, a Cincinnati native, would have information onto what happened. I immediately paused in the episode, turned to my wife, who was fast asleep in the passenger seat. I shouted loudly, "What happened to Grater's ice cream?" She slowly woke up, turned to me with a confused look on her face. "What are you talking about?" she said. I continued, "Mr. Tony said the new Grater's ice cream isn't good. Do you know what happened?" She proceeded to stare at me like I was speaking another language, rolled back over towards the window and fell back asleep. Alas, I have no answers. P.S. I went to West Lafayette High School in West Lafayette, Indiana. We were the Red Devils, and our yearbook was called the Trident. Thank you, Barry. A couple more. Chris Kavanaugh, Cincinnati, Ohio.
This is a runner.
Thank you for reading the email about the Badwater 135-mile ultramarathon on the show. A friend I'd neither seen nor heard from in years texted to let me know he heard it and wished me luck. Connective tissue indeed. A brief update on the race. So he ran this race.
Yes.
I know a person, the wife of someone that works on Around the Horn, I'm not going to mention names, who ran in this race as well. And I was told by Bonnie that she practiced by running on the hottest days of the year, wearing 3 and 4 sweatshirts to get used to this. A brief update on the race from Chris Kavanaugh. I managed not to die. I finished just a hair over 34 hours, a mere 11 hours after the winner, but well ahead of the cutoff of 48 hours. I listened to 6 episodes of the show in the early hours of the race. The show does indeed stink. One episode didn't download properly, and I found myself yelling representative at my phone at 3 a.m. in the middle of Death Valley where there is zero cell coverage. It was as if Comcast was my carrier out there. The highlight was having my daughter on my support team and running several miles with her through the night under the brilliant full moon. She's a redhead. I think she was concerned about getting a moonburn. Despite my wife's protestations, I'm sure I will find another ridiculous race like this to train for, and I will listen to the orange one as I do. Keep up the great work, and please tell my friend Mike Reichert to eat it. And there are pictures of Team Kavanaugh. Just lovely.
Just amazing. Yes.
Just lovely.
Congrats, mate.
From Ruck. Mr. Tony, they changed the package. Don't want any confusion on your end. Ruck, from the Soviet Safeway. There's a new Lucerne. It's new. The new Lucerne, it's the same colors.
Yes.
Is it large curd?
Yes.
Is it 4%? From Matt Hagen. Dear Mr. Tony and gang, nearly a couple of years ago, I had an email read on the air in which I chastised my then-girlfriend for her ludicrous views on grilled cheese, but also praised her for her burgeoning disdain of Subarus. She then wrote in several months ago to update the gang on our engagement and complain how the grilled cheese debate and this show played a role in it. Well, the time has come, and attached you will find an invitation for the whole gang to our upcoming wedding. The date is July 23rd. Well, what good does that do us? Okay, is it not, is that tomorrow?
Yes, that's tomorrow. Well, if we leave now.
The date is July 23rd in St. Paul, Minnesota. One of the appetizers will actually be mini grilled cheeses. No word on whether mayo or butter will be used. I will plan to spend our next few anniversaries at the wedding venue just in case this email gets caught in the podcast delay and you read it a ways down the road and show up late. All the best, and with appreciation for the role you played in our early relationship, which still confuses me and probably infuriates her. Matt Hagen and the woman to whom he will soon be related by marriage, Lindsay Ryan of Pelican Rapids, Minnesota. P.S. Could you ask Saliza to bring his solo stove? We're having a s'more station in the back courtyard. We could use an extra fire to go with mine. From Bill Garner in North Potomac, Maryland. The O's drafted a 7-foot pitcher from St. Leo. I haven't heard of them since Big John stopped coaching. Wow, a 7-footer?
7-footer, yeah, tallest player ever, yeah.
And one more from Donnie Matthews in Commerce City, Colorado. On Monday's show, you read an email from Brian Kearns from Jefferson, Maryland, about his adventures with UK hotels. I know that guy. We grew up together at Walkersville High School. We played football. He was pretty good. I played basketball. I was decent. He went to Catholic University. I went to Shenandoah. Yeah, that Shenandoah. I was the tuba/basketball player who played against Matumbo in Georgetown that you love to make fun of. I haven't talked to Brian in forever, but his email, I know, made me and fellow Little and other Walkersville alum, NBC golf producer Joe Martin very happy. Connective tissue, kids. If you're out on your bike tonight, as always, do wear white. You know what ought to happen to them? They ought to be stabbed by cocktail forks.
Oh, my.
Alright, so that was the Friday, July 22nd episode of the Tony Kornheiser Show. We are now going to transition to the Friday, July 22nd episodes and segments of the Sharp and Benning radio show from Omaha, Nebraska. So get ready for a lot of Nebraska football talk, which I know everyone's excited about, if anyone is actually even watching this video other than me. We are going to start that now as we continue flying over the eastern coast of Greenland. We're at, 70% of fuel left. We might be able to get to Iceland in this flight. We'll see how long we go here. But time for the Friday, July 22nd. Just confirming the date. Yes, the Friday, July 22nd episode of the Sharp and Benning Show beginning now.
Sharp and Benning in the morning on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and the 1620 The Zone app. Here are Gary Sharp and Ravi Lula.
And I have great respect for Nick and that's unfortunately our thing went public, and that's sometimes that happens in this world. Nothing's private anymore, is it? Anyway, but no, we have great respect for Nick, and we all learn from him. We all will learn. Like he will learn. Hopefully, I learn from things we do and say, and we move on from there. But have great respect for him and their program, like always. But NIL, like I say, guys, there's no rules. Each state has its own rules.
I mean, it's not just an NCAA thing or a national thing. There's each state, like for instance, in Texas, we cannot bring up NIL to a recruit. We can't say it, we can't promise. All we can say, if guys on our team have it, that's all we can say. Other states can prevent written contracts. They can send you a written contract to a guy. I've been going through that in the recruiting thing. I mean, it's just the world we're in, and we're frustrated because there's no unification of what happens and the way it happens. You know what I mean? And it's just a different day and time. But listen, change is inevitable. That's the rules we have to play by, so we all have to adapt and adjust. And if you either adapt and adjust or you don't, one of the two.
Going back to what happened back in February, and what I'm going to do now is address it. And moving forward, that'll be the last time I talk about this subject. But there was an inquiry. It was uncomfortable. It was unfounded. And it presented an opportunity for people to, personally attack me, my family, and also our program. And it didn't work.
The Cardinals are betting on Kyler Murray and betting big with a 5-year extension today that is now official before training camp begins.
The Cardinals have no choice but to sign Kyler Murray to an extension because they don't have a better option at the quarterback position. He's revolutionized the position for them. He's stabilized them. They've gotten to the playoffs, and I know they haven't had the success in the playoffs that everyone would want, and they've tailed off at the end of years. But when you guarantee a guy $160 million, that's going to make him feel a lot better about coming into work every single day, being that leader that they want him to be, and he has earned this contract.
If you trade Juan Soto at age 23, it's going to be the most significant player traded at a young age since Babe Ruth.
Right-hander at the belt. Here it is to Murph. And a deep drive, left center field. Green will turn and watch it fly. A tremendous shot. It might have landed in one of the suites out there in left center by Murphy. And the A's take a 3-0 lead.
On 0-2. Raymond, the fly ball to center field. Shrevsky going back to the wall, and it's gone! A home run! Freddie Freeman, a 9-game hitting streak, leads the majors in base hits with 115. That was his 14th home run, his 60th RBI, and the Dodgers take a 1-0 lead.
Ground ball through the left side. Will it get through? It's backhanded, and nobody's at second base. That's where Connor left it through it. One was there, and the Astros win it as Bregman scores. 3-2 the final.
Hey, this isn't Sheryl Crow. This is the darkness. Chance. This is Friday morning. This is the last week around here that we will not have football activity going on. I mean, a little uplifting. I mean, it's a peppy song. Yeah. It's like a pop song. It's you see in one of those, a movie. Yeah, like a montage? Yes. This is a montage, Charles. I thought we'd go with a little Sheryl Crow, because it's Friday and Sheryl Crow is in town. I believe in a thing called love. I can play some Sheryl if you want. There's a chance we can make it now.
See, Robbie's on board.
Stop.
Get with the program, Gary.
I thought you liked co-hosts that like to sing to you. I do, but what's going to happen is I got to keep the headspace clear today, and this song's going to be in my head now.
Play something more annoying.
No, that's okay. That's okay. This is a banger here. Yeah, I'm not saying this is a bad song.
Yeah.
It does get stuck in the old cranium a little bit. Yes. Yeah. Good Friday morning, everybody. There is Robbie. I'm Gary Chance. The whole gang has assembled. Yes, the final week of non-football activity around here. This time next week, we'll have media days, fan days, starter practice, stuff to talk about, videos to consume. We'll no longer have to debate about weightlifting pictures or anything like that, or speculation. You know me, I love a good weightlifting picture, Gary. I know you do. I know you do. Some can handle the weightlifting picture better than others. It's true. It's true. You have to have a certain level of maturity to handle the weightlifting picture. One thing we've not talked about, and this is probably a credit to Zach Duvall and his strength and conditioning unit down in Lincoln, is we've not had, of all the bookmarks that you check off of what you talk about in the off-season. We haven't talked about strength and conditioning in a while around here. Yeah, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I think it's a good thing. Because usually when we talk about strength and conditioning, and again, not everyone is apt to handle what good strength and conditioning looks like. I would say about 99% of people are not. And sometimes and it doesn't matter if it's Nebraska football, Creighton basketball, the new strength and conditioning program at UNO. Sometimes when an athlete shows up, it's not on you. They show up and they have a bad body.
Yes.
So it's going to take a while. But we've not had that debate. I think that's a good thing around here.
Well, I think it helps. I think people give Duval the benefit of the doubt at this point because of how dramatically the look of the bodies has changed over the last few years. I would say that is, I mean, you can have a lot of gripes about the Scott Frost era and how things have gone, but I think in terms of making the football players look like Big Ten football players, they've gone a long way in the correct direction there. So I tend to agree that it not being a story is probably a good thing, but every once in a while you hear, oh, these guys are bigger, stronger, faster than ever, which is kind of nice. But didn't last year about this time, or maybe a little earlier, did we not get the testing numbers like we got last year?
Yes, in a different kind of form.
We got them. We did end up. Because they made a big deal about it last year. They said there was graphics on Twitter and stuff.
There was a lot of discussion about how they go back to the days before of Husker Power where they would release testing results.
Yeah.
And then they have not done that for a while.
Because they did it last year.
I don't know and I don't think it's hey, no, we can't because we don't want people to see it. I just think it was a decision that after it was released, again, not everybody knew how to handle all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I think they said, okay, it's...
See, I liked it
if you want to see it, come to Memorial Stadium and you can see everything that is up on the board.
See, I liked it because it was, there's a couple days worth of content there. Talk about how big of a freak Phelan Sanford is.
Hey, now he turned out he's special teams.
No, he's a really good athlete.
Rock star.
I'm not totally being facetious here. He's a really good athlete. I think we saw, maybe that was the first time we realized, Cam Jurgens really is kind of a freak for an offensive lineman in terms of his athletic ability. You kept hearing, it's like, he's really athletic for a lineman. He's really athletic for a lineman. But then you actually put numbers to it, and you're right. Most people don't know how to consume those numbers. I was in that world for a while, so I love that kind of stuff. I geek out about it. That's why I like the NFL Combine and stuff like that. I get that it's stupid, but I'm just a big fan. But you're probably right. It's probably because most people look at those numbers and be like, well, that doesn't seem that good.
Well, he looks big, but man, why doesn't he run faster? How come his short shuttle is not higher? What's his spark score? But there are a couple of guys and there have been more players out and about, whether they're running camps throughout the state or they're making public appearances. It's very noticeable if you bump into Garrett Nelson that Garrett Nelson is a grown arse man right now.
Oh, yeah.
And I will say, from the time that I remember seeing even O'Shawn Mathis, and this is a shorter amount of time, O'Shawn Mathis, when he was on his official visit, and again, he was wearing, a semi-winter coat, to where I saw him at an appearance the other night. I mean, he looks different. Like the guys that, if you want to take and go, okay, strength and conditioning, how is it working? You take a guy like Wynn, who I don't think was in the greatest shape when he showed up.
Sure.
How in a short amount of time, how can they get his body apt that he can play 12 football games at that position in this conference and be able to last? But this is it now. Now next week is the start of a football season.
I ironically enough think that linemen are usually the best indicator of how the strength and conditioning program are going, because let's be honest, it's really easy to get somebody to 300 pounds. It is not really easy to get somebody to 300 pounds and have it not look terrible. Most people are not naturally going to look good carrying around 300 pounds. That's just what it is. But you look at a guy, and I know this was a while ago, and he's a freak, but Ndamukong Suh might have been the leanest 300-pound guy I've ever seen. When he was wearing the suit at the Heisman ceremony, you're like, I would not guess you at more than 250. You're enormous, and it's a very lean look. There was a while where Nebraska's linemen, the offensive linemen in general, looked every bit of 300 pounds, and that's probably not, I don't mean that in a good way. And now it seems like it's distributed in a more
You don't have as many
way.
frumpy bodies.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still some guys that, they got a little frump in them. But there are two particular things when it comes to like linemen. I remember it had to be 2003 because I was still doing the sidelines, and Nebraska was playing Kansas State, and I can't remember who I was standing next to. I think it was a grad assistant before the game, and he was looking at the Kansas State linemen lined up, and he goes, "We used to look like that," which is true because you remember as Kansas State developed their program, all their linemen looked the same. You couldn't tell really the difference between a tackle and a center or a guard.
Yeah.
Because they all had the same similar body. Iowa and Wisconsin are like that.
Minnesota, I was just going to say Iowa,
Wisconsin are like that. Minnesota has started to get like that, where if somebody stands in front of you and they go, "I'm an offensive lineman," you don't know if they're a tackle, guard, or center.
Yeah.
And then another lineman comes up and goes, "I'm an offensive lineman." You go, "You look alike." So I remember this grad assistant going, "We used to look like that," as he was pointing out the Kansas State linemen. And these were the backup linemen because they were going through, they were running plays, and of course, everybody lines up so they block so you can't see. And then the biggest come to Jesus thing about where Nebraska strength and conditioning had gone was the first year that Scott was here that they went to Michigan. And every coach to a man said, "We are in trouble." Because they were looking at Michigan and they were looking at when Nebraska took to Ann Arbor and they were going, "We are in trouble." And and now they don't say that like last year. Okay, so you fast forward 3 years, you don't go, "Oh boy, there's a huge discrepancy like there was in Ann Arbor in 2018. So I think they're in a better spot in strength and conditioning. I don't think there's a huge worry, but there has to be, there will become a point, and it kind of in some cases on the offensive line, everybody looks the same.
Yes.
You were talking about Sue, because we had him in studio, and we're going to talk about him because his position coach was on the radio and talked about him last night. If you just
previously on
if you just glanced at Teddy Prohaska, give me his deets. You got to turn his mic on.
We good? Are we good? There we go. If you looked at Teddy Prohaska, you would probably guess him at every bit of like 6'8", 6'9", just because he's huge. I don't think you'd guess him at weight-wise. You'd probably guess low. And what's he going to come in at? Like 315?
Okay, so officially on a roster, he is 6'10". I don't know that he's 6'10". He was here.
He
about
might be 6'10"
in
cleats.
He's all of he's
6'8", 6'9".
6'9".
Yeah, 100%.
But if you looked at him, and when you're that tall and that body and you've got that frame,
it stretches out.
Yeah, you don't look 320.
What I say, 350? Yeah, that's pretty
so
good. I would have guessed
he's technically going to be listed as 6'10", 320 this year.
So if I were just to look at him and I didn't have the background I was in and kind of understood how these things work, I probably would have guessed him at like 260.
Yeah, I would have gone a lot skinnier.
Yeah. He looks in good shape, and you would never say, "Oh yeah, that's definitely a 320-pound guy." But that's a good thing because that means it's distributed in places that are useful, like your legs and your trunk and your kind of like shoulders and upper body, rather than, okay, he's carrying a lot of that in the gut. You know what I mean? And we've seen, again, not like fat shaming anybody or anything here, but we've seen a lot of Nebraska linemen, especially prior to Duvall's arrival with Frost, that you could see every bit of where that 320 pounds was coming from.
Yeah, they were very lucky they weren't wearing the mid-drift uniform.
Well, you remember that calendar that came out with the offensive lineman, and everybody was like, "Oh, that doesn't look great." And listen, they're offensive linemen. They're going to carry around a little extra body weight. They're not bodybuilders or anything like that. I think a lot of people would actually be surprised at even like linebackers that will carry a little extra weight because it's helpful to them. But it looked bad. Like, I expect to see a little belly, a little extra body fat, but you look at like the shoulders, the traps, the arms, and you're like, that doesn't look like a Division I football player's, kind of yoke area, how that should look. And I think that part of it's changed quite a bit.
Being the strength and conditioning coordinator for a football program might seem like a glorious job.
I think
at times
incredibly hard.
It would be miserable because how much control do you have? how much control do you look at a guy and say, okay, this is where I think we can get him with his body, but then the head coach says, no, I want him to look like this, and you take a lot of direction from the head coach.
Yeah.
We've seen that through a couple of previous head coaches where they didn't tell the strength and conditioning program what they wanted out of position groups, or they were way too involved, and then the message was all over the place. They would change on the fly what they wanted their linemen to look like, what they wanted their defensive linemen to look like, what they wanted their defensive backs to look like.
The other thing that you have to have here is, and we talked about identity a little bit yesterday, you need a super clear identity of who you are as a football team in order to develop those players into fitting that identity. And that's not something I think Nebraska's been terribly good at, even in the Scott Frost era, but especially before that. I don't know that, Bo Pelini, Mike Riley necessarily had the best idea of, hey, I need my guys to look like X, Y, Z. That's why Iowa and Wisconsin are so successful at this. That's why Nebraska used to be so successful at this. They knew exactly what their offensive linemen needed to look like in order to accomplish their schemes. Iowa and Wisconsin know exactly what it looks like to be a successful, they physically know what it looks like to be a successful offensive lineman in their system. Nebraska for a long time hasn't really had that picture of, hey, this is exactly who we need. And they're starting to get there, which I think is a positive, but it's a lot more difficult than people understand. And the other thing is, so you're a strength and conditioning coach. You've got them for what, a couple hours a day? Tops?
Yeah, and then this time of the year is the most important. You own the program.
And you've got them for a couple hours a day, maybe a little bit more this time of year. But here's, especially when you're trying to change a guy's body, it's the other 22 hours a day that actually matter. Because you can hand a guy a nutritional plan. You can even work with your nutrition staff and be like, hey, this is what this guy needs to eat. This is what this guy needs to eat. You cannot stop those guys from going to McDonald's at midnight. You can't do it. You can't stop them from going to what's the Mexican place, the drive-through De Leon's? Is that the drive-through Mexican place in Lincoln? You can't stop them from going to De Leon's after they go have a couple beers.
It's too bad that Amigos downtown on campus closed. That was
you can't stop them from that, and that's where it actually becomes difficult, right? Because you have, even if you are on the exact same page as your head coach, even if you guys are in lockstep, you know exactly what you're trying to accomplish, you know exactly who you're trying to make these guys look like. You can't they don't got ankle bracelets on to track them to make sure they're not going to De Leon's at 1 o'clock in the morning.
You gotta hope they respect you, like a Dave Ellison's nutritional program, that you're not going to screw with it.
Yeah,
but we all have,
but they're college kids, right? You know what I mean? Like they're gonna get off program a little bit. It's incredibly challenging.
All right, welcome in everybody. Good morning. Just down the street from here, the big Memorial Park concert usually happens before the 4th of July. Sheryl Crow's performing tonight. Drove by, so they're set up. The stage is set up, and what is it? Right at 6, because people were starting to cross right there. They looked like they were parking in the UNO parking lot, and then they were walking across with their lawn chairs and their blankets to go claim the spot.
Oh, people are staking out already?
It's aggressive. I got my eyes open to this about 8 years ago, where people, they go early and they stake out their spot, and you don't mess with someone's spot once they put the blanket down.
It's like a sacred thing?
It's like going to, if a parade still happens and people want to stake out their spot, they're going to go and they're going to put stakes, they're going to chalk or they're going to spray paint the grass, they're going to put the chairs down so nobody messes with it. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing down the street here.
It's a quack quack seatback situation here, like they honor
Excuse me?
Quack quack seatback? Are you not familiar?
I am not familiar. Chance? Is this an Animal Planet thing?
No. This is high school
thing.
Camping trip. Like literally, it's if there's limited seating and someone is like sitting on the ground, standing there with their arms crossed, and so you got to use the facilities. Quack quack seat back. You go get your business done.
Rights to that sitting spot until you return.
We had a phrase for that, but it was not that.
Is it not radio appropriate?
No, I think yeah, maybe not.
I won't push too far. Yeah, so it's
quack seat.
Imagine you're at a.
They didn't have that at my glamping camp.
Imagine you're at a house party, and there's oftentimes not enough sitting places for for the amount of people there. So instead of getting up and just hoping no one takes your seat, you go quack, quack, seat back. Your seat is now reserved for you. And if somebody takes it, then everybody in the room's like, hey, that's his, get out.
I think ours was just simple. I got dibs.
That's fair. It's like calling shotgun in a car.
Yeah.
Quack, quack, seat back. Same deal.
People still call shotgun in a car?
I mean,
sometimes
not adults,
you
but
want to be stuck in the back seat.
It's true. I mean, I don't mind being in the back seat. It's the middle back seat.
On the hump?
Well, I don't know. I don't have most cars don't have a hump anymore, but.
But the larger guy, you don't put like Chance and myself on the hump. You get squished by the door, or you're squishing somebody.
Yeah. It's like being in the middle seat in a plane. You can't be in the middle seat of a back seat of a car. It does not work.
I think calling shotgun increases, like, it's like the Richter scale where, like, every inch above, like, 6 foot, you're more likely to call shotgun because you get into the 6'3", the 6'4", the 6'5".
Sitting in the back seat is just not an option.
You're going to get scoliosis.
That's what Southwest Airlines should introduce. I guess you'd have to change the phrase nowadays. But
yeah, you couldn't call shotgun at an airport. That's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
You could call quack, quack, seat back.
You could, and people would look at you, but it would start a conversation.
What are you looking at, Air Marshal?
See, that's the nice thing about my car. I got 3 rows, so the second row the seats can move back, so you got nice leg room for your taller friends if they have to sit in the back.
Have you ever ridden in the back seat of your own car?
Not in the very back.
I have. It's bizarre.
Not in the third row. I've rode in the second row before.
See, it's still very odd for me to allow somebody to drive my own car, and I'm sitting in the passenger seat. It's all about control. I have to drive. I enjoy driving, and I go through the roof just sitting there. If somebody else is driving my car, and I'm like, hey, drive my car, I'll sit in the passenger seat.
I dramatically prefer it, but every once in a while I like to go out and have a few soda pops, and I let the wife drive the car back. Yeah. I don't love it, though, because I'm going to be honest, she's not a great driver.
You're holding on to the handle that won't be named by... it's internet slang name, but with a death grip.
The shoot handle, I'm just yeah, it's not great.
That's the first sign if you're a good driver or not. When a person gets in and they immediately grab onto that.
She can tell, I'm visibly nervous when she drives. She knows. She used to think I would drive her everywhere, before we were married, because I was a gentleman or whatever. Yeah. It's like, nope, just cannot stand to be in a car with you as the driver.
All right, coming up on the show, our lineup brought to you by the Roofery's at John Higgins Weather Guard. On this Friday, it is the last Friday. It's 36 days before Nebraska Northwestern play. Shout out Carl Buckhalter, Dana Stevenson, and this is well before our time, but was very good in the mid-'60s. Larry Walker. 36 days. We have lots to talk about. Again, Donovan Raiola was on the radio last night talking about his offensive line. But who will be talking to us? Brought to you by the Roofery's at John Higgins Weather Guard. Brandon Vogel will stop by. Mike Sauter, who is back from Fargo. Huge
great place
wrestling
to be.
event.
I'm sure I've never been to Fargo.
This time of the year, I bet it's not bad.
No, it's probably okay.
See, I've always in my head thought, the Summit League cities, why don't I do a summer trip so I can see Grand Forks and Fargo in the summer and not in the winter when you land in Grand Forks and you get out of the plane and you walk onto the tarmac and there's 24 inches of snow. Ugh. You're like, God, how does anybody live up here? And then they say, well, hey, come back in the summer. So I thought about doing the I-29 tour.
Yeah.
And then maybe, because I go to Denver.
So isn't
Kansas
Denver
City.
the crown jewel of that then?
Some would say Omaha.
I think Omaha is the crown jewel of the Summit League. Chance.
Well, yeah, come on.
How dare you?
You don't know where you work?
I do. I just really like Denver.
Have you not seen the cost of living in Denver? How dare you?
No, it's fun to visit.
What do you like about Denver? What do you like about Denver that you can't do in Omaha?
Broncos, skiing,
I like its herbs, its shrubs, Garden of the Gods, Estes Park. So pretty.
Look at this hippie over here.
It's okay. We learned a lot about Chance this week.
You guys want to talk about crime some more?
But Macomb. Macomb's a very difficult place to get to. You talked about Macomb the other day.
It's and it's not worth it when you get there. If I'm being honest with you.
I can't imagine what Macomb, Illinois is like during the summer. I know what it's like during the winter.
That's when I was there. I was there during the summer, and it's kind of a ghost town because there's nobody really at the school the way. I mean, at least during the school year, you've got sort of its own like ecosystem there. Without the students there, it's a little creepy. It feels like there's going to be tumbleweed just rolling through town.
I mentioned Fargo. Fargo Moorhead is nice this time of the year. You like to fish? You like to be out on the water?
See, I'm not super outdoorsy.
Okay. Well, that would limit maybe northern Minnesota for you.
Want to throw a pole in the water, Robbie? Just hang out?
No.
And run out to Lake Cunningham this weekend?
I'm only outdoorsy in the sense that I like to drink outside sometimes.
Huh.
That could be a sport in
like
its
a
own.
patio
It
drink.
could be a sport in its own.
I'll play yard games. Does that count as outdoorsy?
Yeah, very, very bougie.
Do you
get your nails dirty?
I mean, like, I'll do yard work. I don't enjoy it, but I'll do it. But I do usually wear gloves, if I'm being honest.
You guys still have a set of yard darts laying around?
Don't have yard darts. You ever played beer darts?
No.
Have you played beer darts, Gary?
I have not played beer darts.
Okay. Do you know what it is?
Yes.
Terrific game. It's a lot of fun.
It is. Chance is getting all excited. We know what Chance's priorities are. I like this. But Mike is back from Fargo, so we'll get his thoughts. Mike Schaefer stops by. In the recruiting world, but we'll get Schaef's thoughts on the current team. The recruiting world, Josh Manning, a 4-star wide receiver from the Kansas City area, not a surprise, is staying home, and he is going to Mizzou. Nebraska has one spot for a wide receiver, and it's already spoken for. Just hasn't made it official. That's just my feeling. I'm Malachi Coleman. But Mizzou is recruiting. If Eli Drinkwitz can perform on the field, and they're 11-12 in their last 23, they are in state. They are cleaning up.
Yeah.
They've had, since he's been the head coach there, they've had 4 4-star wide receivers and a 5-star wide receiver that is going to be a freshman this fall. Everybody says go into Kansas City, go into St. Louis. Well,
they're kind of locking down the borders
in the
a little
previous
bit.
regime, in the state of Missouri, they were like, well, we can't stop it. That staff is doing a good job recruiting in-state. So Schaefer will stop by, and then Matt Berzall as well. We got lots to discuss on this Friday, the 22nd of July. This is it. This is the last Friday around here without any, football stuff.
It's not last Friday. It's the last Friday.
Some might say it's a good Friday if you you hate football. All right? But we have a lot of stuff to discuss. Donovan Arlo went on the air last night, talked about his offensive linemen. We, of course, will talk about offensive linemen. We'll wrap up the SEC with the fast talker Jimbo Fisher and much more. If you get paid $10.25 million a year, do you spend more on your haircut than you do curly if you're Kirby Smart?
Yeah, I think you have to.
We're going to have to dive into how much Kirby Smart pays for a haircut.
I'd also
the style that has never changed, it appears.
I'd also which is a very classic Southern guy style.
Yeah.
It's a very common Southern style there.
That's those. I learned this, the Bama bangs.
Yes. Yeah. I would also like to discuss if he is spending enough on his suits, because I don't think so.
I think when he popped up on the screen yesterday, what do we figure he wears that suit maybe 4 or 5 times a year?
Yeah, and I took the under. 100% took the under there.
He's 66-15. He could be shirtless at the SEC Media Days. I think the Georgia fan base would be like, that's our coach, man.
You mean like when Jim McElwain was naked on the Shark?
Allegedly, and it got dispelled. But it would have been a great story. Maybe that's what everybody's saying this week. The Big Bang Theory killed Nebraska football. A football coach naked with a shark may have killed Florida.
Listen, I would have thought it would have brought him back, if anything.
Or the personality of Dan Mullen.
Maybe denying that it was him on the shark killed Florida football.
I think there's some things that you want to lean into. I don't know, being naked with a shark is one of those I would.
I probably would have made a joke.
Like for your brand?
And just been like, well, I don't think Jim McElwain had a real, I don't know what his brand would have been, except for he takes himself too seriously. But I would have leaned into it and been like, hey, what I do in my personal time is none of your business. That's all I would have said.
Just like Shark Week. What of it?
Say, I like to be one with nature and call it a day.
Hey.
Sharks gotta keep swimming to live.
I ask our players to be out there in the deepest part of the waters.
I just want to show him that I can be there with him. Sharp Betting in the Morning, Robbie Chance. I'm Gary with all of you. 6:37 on a good Friday morning, everybody. Thanks for spending time with us on 1620 The Zone. Next week is Maha.
Okay.
Everybody come to my neighborhood. Just be nice to our neighborhood. But he said Sheryl Crow is performing tonight.
Okay.
Lyle Lovett and his large band is performing tonight. And then Poison is at Stir Cove. I didn't even know Poison was still around.
Mm-hmm. I didn't either. So I love it. Is that the one that was married to Julia Roberts? Okay. That's all I know him for.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I understand he's a musician, but I'm not sure I could pick a Lyle Lovett song, like, out of a lineup.
But you could pick out Lyle Lovett, his look.
I think, if I saw him, I would know it was him. I might think it was David Stern for, like, half a second. But I'd probably figure it out one way or the other.
So this is like for us oldies.
Not David Stern, Howard Stern. Did I say Howard Stern? That's all right. One of the Sterns.
We're off this week. Somebody just crushed Chance. I got to read an email. Wow. About something. So for us oldies, this is like, that's like a hat trick night.
Are you a big Poison guy?
I went through a phase.
Like bandanas?
Yeah, I went through a phase.
Okay.
I like their music.
Is that the, it's not Bret Michaels, is it?
That's Bret Michaels.
I always confuse him with the wrestler. Isn't there a wrestler called Bret Michaels also?
That is
Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
There we go. I confused those two. Bret Michaels, I believe, type 1 diabetic. Represent, bud.
He has been very active. You see him a lot.
Yeah.
So this is their stadium tour. They're not bringing Def Leppard, Motley Crue, or Joan Jett.
I mean, I don't know that I would consider Stir Cove a stadium, but it's a nice venue.
Let me double check here. Yeah, they're at Stir Cove tonight. That is a heck of a night. The weather is supposed to be, Fat Man's Weight Loss Paradise. It's going to be super hot here today.
There you go.
Represent music scene in Omaha. I mean, before long, we're going to have so many music venues around here that there's way too many music venues for a town of 1 million people. But today's a good day.
I mean, there's way too many restaurants for a town of 1 million people, too, and we still figure it out, right?
Yeah, but we've got a couple of new, like, state-of-the-art music venues that are going to open. There's like down the Steel House downtown.
Yeah, yep.
I mean,
it's nice to have something like an in-between size venue, though. Because you have CHI,
which remember Ralston Arena and Baxter Arena were kind of supposed to be.
Sure, but those are even a little large for, like, you want a couple thousand seat places. Because it's just a different vibe. Like, certain sounds work better in a little bit smaller venues. You kind of have, like, I don't think it's called Sokol anymore. But
it's the Admiral now.
The Admiral.
Yeah, which, again, just like Heinz Field, people are not going to call it the Admiral.
It's going to be Sokol.
It's going to be Sokol.
For the rest of my life, probably. But you have that, which is kind of a smaller venue, and then you kind of have a jump from that to, Ralston, Baxter, which is like several thousand. There's really nothing in that kind of medium size there where I think a lot of bands almost prefer to play that size of a venue.
I'm surprised and when you get to that level that they choose, CHI, where you're going 14,000.
Yeah, it's a big jump.
15,000.
Yeah,
like Pitbull. Pitbull is perfect for Baxter Arena. Pitbull will be at Baxter Arena next month. I see that all the time on the advertisement outside of Baxter Arena.
So they thought Pitbull could have sold out CHI.
You think so?
I mean, I think it depends on the part of the country you're in. He might not be a sellout CHI at Omaha guy.
Even in Miami, people are like,
they're over it.
No, I'd rather watch and listen to Gloria Estefan.
That's fair.
Than Pitbull.
I feel like Pitbull is better on the radio. I don't know that his thing translates live.
Maybe Mr. Worldwide is better outside the States.
Are you saying that maybe at the Clash of the Coliseum, Pitbull should not have been the lead artist?
Yeah.
Maybe put in a little Blake Shelton?
Well, I'm not a country guy.
So Baxter Arena's had great success with religious concerts.
Okay.
They've also rap artists.
Sure.
I mean, they pack that place.
Really?
And then Ralston is like, the AAA country singer that the name, but they're not on the level where they can go downtown and pack.
Sure.
CHI.
So you're not getting Garth Brooks at Ralston Arena, is what you're telling me?
No. Yeah, those days of Garth Brooks playing the Bob Devaney Sports Center are long gone. After you go to Memorial Stadium this time last year and you sell the place out.
Yeah.
And
I was like, I don't even know if he would go to CHI anymore.
So I'd love to be on his tour because he's just going to college football stadiums.
Yeah, my brother and his wife went to go see him at Notre Dame.
And I heard that. I mean, you see all the videos.
Yeah.
He was at Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
He was just at Charlotte. I mean, the guy never stops touring. Remember, he was retired.
Yeah, and
then he was going to go on a farewell tour. He's like Elton John, and the farewell tour is going on forever. Now, speaking of musical artists, the Sheryl Crow thing is free.
Yeah.
Have you seen the price? Because I really want to go see him. Bruce Springsteen.
Oh,
this might be it. His tour that's coming up.
I have not seen the prices for that.
Yeah, about $4,000 to $5,000 in the door.
Oh.
And they're competitive to get those tickets.
What kind of a seat does $4,000 to $5,000 get you? That's the nosebleeds.
It gets you in the same zip code.
Okay. You get to stand outside the building where you can faintly hear the boss playing from outside the building.
But they are doing a priority system, and so some people that are diehard Springsteen fans are getting shut out.
Have you ever been to see Springsteen?
Mm-hmm. I've seen him two places. I've seen him at Dodger Stadium.
Okay.
And then I saw him when he was here.
You're a big Boss guy?
I like Bruce Springsteen. I will not say that I am I'm a diehard, but I do enjoy some Springsteen, and I think I like going, even if I'm not a huge fan of your music.
Yeah.
If you are a performer,
if you put on a good show,
I am okay going to it.
That's why I brought up Garth Brooks earlier. I'm not a country fan, and I only know a couple Garth Brooks songs, but I've heard he puts on just a phenomenal performance.
Yeah, whether it be he was it 7-8 years ago, Chance? He was at CHI.
Yes.
When it was CenturyLink, and then that was supposed to be like it.
Yeah.
Then he went away for a while, and then he came back, and then he went to Memorial Stadium. But he is somebody who you almost feel worn out after watching Garth Brooks perform.
It's a very energetic.
Yeah. But Springsteen puts on a fantastic show, and he plays for a while, and hopefully you get lucky enough where he plays a lot of his hits. Instead of you'll get artists that they want to promote their new album.
Yeah,
that makes sense. And so, listen, you'd like to hear the old stuff, and so that kind of gets pushed to the side.
You can sprinkle the new stuff in there. I get that, but you got to play the hits. You can't be out there and be like, hey, we're only playing Chinese Democracy. That's it.
Like, hey, we're gonna run through the new album, and then if you're good by the end, we'll go through the classics.
It's like your dessert at the end. Eat your vegetables, then you get ice cream.
Henry writes in, Chance. Ready?
Uh-oh.
This is your discussion about Denver.
Yeah.
So he likes Denver. I kind of get it. However, Estes Park is completely different. Okay, it's 65 miles northeast of Denver.
You can do that in a day.
And then with the mountain drive, well over an hour away. Yeah, you could do. Yeah, I know traffic is a little bit rough.
Yeah.
Was it 36? Was it Highway 36 to get to Estes Park from Denver?
I'm not sure. I've never been to Estes Park.
Beautiful.
Again, I'm not super outdoorsy.
Okay, so you will never live in Boulder. Up in that area.
Yeah, I think you have to. I believe there's a.
First of all, they don't want you to move to Boulder because they make it very difficult for you to move to Boulder. Because a lot of people move to Boulder, and
I think there's a Denver, Colorado citizenship exam before you get in there. Like, do you own anything Patagonia? When's the last time you've been camping / hiking? Do you own a Subaru?
You own a Jeep though.
Yeah, but I own the bougie Jeep. I don't own a Wrangler.
True.
For the record,
you still see some
I love Colorado, and I love people in Denver. And
Colorado's great.
Our former bosses in Denver just got a huge promotion as running KOA.
Colorado,
50,000 watt blowtorch.
Colorado is great. I've visited several times.
I got a horrible professional football team, but other than that,
I've got a bunch of friends live in Colorado. It's terrific. I'm just saying, like, I don't think they would allow me to live there. I think I'm on like a strictly a visitor's visa.
Gotcha.
I don't think I can get the permanent resident card.
Chance would fit right in.
Nice. Hello, mountain people. I'm here.
I mean, they're not mole people, man. They're
said mountain people.
I know, but you said it like, hello, mole people.
Denver is a thriving metropolis.
Wear the hard hats with flashlights and pickaxes.
See, that's why I like
guys.
That's why I like
making it seem like it's.
No, I like Denver.
Like it's just full of granola people.
I mean, there are a lot of granola people there. I like Denver because it's a city, but a lot of the city people are also granola people.
What you do is you just blaze right through Denver, you go to Golden, and then you march right up to the Coors factory and say, let me in.
You know, I'm not
By the way, not a bad tour.
No.
I mean,
nice community. They put on a great 4th of July show.
Beer tours are fun. I enjoy a good beer tour. I'm not as obsessed with the banquet as some people are. Some people will, go to their grave over the banquet.
Mm-hmm.
It's solid. It's
Some
fine.
of us like to consume good beer. There was a point that I said I will no longer stand in line to get into a bar, pay a cover, and drink poor beer. I got a job for a reason and was to be better than all three of those things.
So good.
Yes.
That's why I don't camp. It's like I work for a living so I don't have to sleep outside.
So this is what they've done for people like you. They do have glamping.
I've heard of this.
Yes. They have it at some of our state parks here.
Do they?
Very, very nice.
I could do like a cabin.
Yeah.
I can do a cabin as long as I'm very big on climate control.
Okay.
I need like an AC or, depending on the time of year,
So you would not be outdoors for the next 2 days?
I don't mind it if I'm doing activities outside. I don't want to sleep outside when there's no climate control. I'm not about that life. Also, camping in a tent is just one of the dumbest things you can do. It's basically you're saying, hey, I'm going to go into this area where anyone who can scrounge up $7 can be into, right? I think that's what it still costs to get into a state park. And I'm going to sleep with a bunch of random strangers around me, with my only protection being a structure made out of tracksuit material. Like, what are we doing here?
I credit to you because you have thought long and hard about this.
I have. It's a serial killer's nightmare.
No, that's
a serial killer's like dream come true. You know how easy it would be just to like go on a killing spree in a campground? Terrible.
Well, as a former camp counselor, I'll say this. You're correct.
I'm just a bystander listening to this
You're surrounded by wooded areas. It's like super easy just to dump a body. What are we doing here? I like locked doors between me and everyone else when I'm sleeping.
Well, sometimes it's not like the people you have to worry about. Sometimes it's the wildlife.
That's another thing.
I got mountain lion sightings in Lincoln.
Got mountain lions. Depending on where you go, you got like grizzly bears. We talked about yesterday how they could take out a gorilla.
We have a deer here in this neighborhood that our radio station is located.
Yeah, you got to watch out for the deer.
I'm pretty sure the camp I worked at was like ground zero for mountain lions coming into Nebraska.
It's terrible.
The one we saw was like the second or third time a mountain lion had been seen in the state, and this was like 5 years ago.
Like, don't worry, guys.
What organization allowed you to be a camp counselor?
Back then they were known as the Boy Scouts of America. Now they call themselves Scouts PSA.
Frost Injected adds to our venues here in town.
Mm-hmm.
The Waiting Room, Orpheum, and Holland. Slow down.
Waiting Room, Slow Down, nice place. Again, those are smaller venues. We don't have what's it called? The Steel House?
Yeah, that's what they're going to call it, Steel House.
Have you
not seen it?
I've seen it. I just
structure
couldn't
right there
remember
by the
what
Holland.
the name was.
Don't they have an outdoor? They're building an outdoor venue as well, I think, right there.
But you don't have
the new Gene Leahy Mall has a
little amphitheater.
Midtown has a. Stinson Park has a. What is musical town?
What is?
Well,
what is this?
Right, it's got a. At 7 in the morning, I can't. It's got a band shell. What do they call it, a band shell?
I think amphitheater is the word you're looking for.
I think it's a band.
Is that what it's
amphitheater's
called?
got to have like seats attached, right?
Oh, it doesn't have
Yeah.
seats?
Well, no. Like you go to the Jazz on the Green last night at Midtown. It's got the band shell, and then you bring your own seats.
I've never heard of a thing called a band shell before. Is that a thing, or did you make that up?
No, it's a thing.
That's
You
like a
never
real
heard band
word?
shell?
No.
It's because you don't get outside.
I get outside, I just don't sleep outside.
Yeah.
That's why I work.
Yeah. Steve would like to tamper down the conversation here. Good God. We'll give the crazy people out there ideas of where to go to kill.
Okay, like no one, if I have thought of it, you don't think the people that are trying, that want to be in that.
It's the whole Iowa football is practicing. Let's don't say anything about it because then people will go watch Iowa football practice if you're at the state baseball tournament.
I mean,
you're saying
maybe.
people are going to be outdoors. Why don't you go kill them if you're a serial killer?
Yeah, that's not what I'm suggesting.
I'm not sure that are P1s of our show.
I'll say this in regards to the serial killers out there.
What the hell is
Usually
happening in this house?
the crowd that likes to rough it in tents that are like isolated are usually packing.
But there's some places.
No.
What?
No. If we ever want to be sponsored by like REI or any outdoor, I got to stop this conversation.
All right. Like Columbia, North Face, hit me up. What's up? What?
I'm sure
We'll
it's
go
a
out
great.
there.
I'm sure it's a great experience. It's not for me.
That's okay. Yeah, it's not for everybody.
Not for everyone.
You don't strike me as a guy that's going to hang out inside of a state park for 6 days.
No.
Saying to your wife, hey, we got some great state parks in Nebraska. Let's go on vacation.
Even outside of, let's
ride the horses.
So we'll get off the serial killer topic here. I don't understand people that, I don't understand scenery.
Like why we have it?
No, I don't understand, so there's people that will travel long distances to just look at something outside. And I don't understand it.
I feel like we're about to have an argument about the Grand Canyon.
No, I've never been to the Grand Canyon, but I've been to Yosemite. I was like, oh, this is nice.
Were you let down by Yosemite? Okay.
Dramatically.
What about you, Yosemite, let you down?
Didn't like El Capitan or Half Dome?
Just the whole...
Bored by a buffalo or anything like that?
No, it was fine. It was just, I'm walking a lot to look at something for 30 seconds and be like, oh, yep, that's a waterfall, cool. And then we're done here. And now I have to walk 4 miles back to the car. This is why the internet exists. You can just Google images of things. Like, right now, I'm just going to Google Yosemite Falls.
Really, they should just have a guy walking out with a live stream
Look how
camera.
quickly I came up with pictures of Yosemite Falls. I can see it. I get the exact same experience that I had when I went there. Except for the, traversing through
the nice fresh air, the sound of the falls.
Fresh air is
the
dramatic.
beauty.
The birds chirping.
Fresh air is dramatically overrated.
You gotta go to Montana. Then you will say, you were right, Sharpie.
I'm sure
Montana air is...
Montana is very pretty and has terrific air.
Going back to Montana this fall.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Missoula?
No, where are we going? I've been to Great Falls, Missoula, Bozeman. I think we're going back to Bozeman.
Missoula's what? University of Montana?
Yep. And Bozeman is
Montana State? Yeah.
What's the rivalry game called again? I can't remember.
The Moose Clash.
No, because I went to it this year. It's something of the Wild. It's great. It was great.
Oh,
it was
the Brawl of the Wild.
The Call of the Wild.
No, it's not.
Is that a different thing?
Because you guys are just killing every outdoor person in
Okay.
America here.
So, speaking of
I gotta
outdoor,
get the right one.
it was funny because yesterday I was driving by on Center and I'm like, man, I miss Canfield Sporting Goods.
Brawl of the Wild.
See?
That's what he said.
It was one of my top football experiences was getting to watch Montana State football this past year.
Montana's pretty solid at FCS, aren't they?
Montana State's better.
Are they?
Yeah. Montana State played didn't they play North Dakota State in the final this year?
Oh, maybe I was confusing them too.
All right, so you two who like to stay indoors with the air conditioning,
yes,
we will continue on.
I just said I was a summer camp counselor.
How much did you stay in the cabin?
So, the first 2 years I was actually in a platform tent for my
automatically no
for 4 weeks, 5 weeks at a time, and then we got cabins, but they didn't have AC, so we were just coming up with creative uses for box fans all summer.
So he was kind of roughing it. Platform tent? No, thank you. I don't like heights either, so.
Saw a mouse in my tent one time. Threw my knife at it.
You threw your knife at a mouse?
Yeah, he was in my space. Like, I was never one that ran into a black widow in that area, but they were around, I think.
This is just a reminder, everyone, this is the last, non-football Friday. So bear with us.
Listen, it's July, guys. I don't know what to tell you.
I had a whole rundown here, a lot of stuff to talk about.
Baseball's back!
Spotting squirrels.
What is this? Spotting?
I'll explain. I got scoreboard on chance on Animal Planet.
Okay.
There are splotting squirrels going on.
Splotting squirrels.
There, I guess, dogs do this, and people could do this if they wanted to. This time of the year.
They can splot?
Splotting squirrels. On that little Google machine that you looked up to experience Yosemite.
It's gorgeous.
Look up splotting squirrels. Brandon Vogel, Mike Sauter, Mike Schaefer, Matt Burzall, all still slated to join us. We will get into, I mentioned Kirby Smart and how much now he will pay for his haircut if he upgrades. But how much will the Kirby Smart market now force colleges to pay their football coach? Because did Kyler Murray yesterday have the right time? It's all about, to get that raise, it's all about timing. Kirby Smart and Kyler Murray in the same day got paid.
Got to set that market.
Sharp betting in the morning. There's Ravi. There's Chance. I'm just along for the ride today, folks. 1620 The Zone.
The best way to catch all the action is on 16. 1620thezone.com and the 1620 The Zone app.
All right, to finish this hour,
Natasha Bedingfield.
I don't want my name attached to this show today, so it's just the morning show on 1620 The Zone. We'll chew on this question after we take our next break. Who is more upset at the market changing in football? An owner or an athletic director on Deshaun Watson guaranteed money and a Mel Tucker deal that has changed the market because Kirby Smart and Kyler Murray got paid yesterday. But Kyler Murray's contract is different from Deshaun Watson. Chew on that. I told you guys about spotting squirrels. To just wrap up this hour that
I think you're pronouncing it wrong. I think it's splooting.
Splooting?
Yeah.
That was splotting.
I think it's splooting because when you sploot, this is a term I am familiar with.
Like when you're display sploot on the radio.
Yeah, sploot's not a bad word.
Okay.
It's when your dog, at least, and squirrels do it too. I Googled it on the Google machine like you told me to.
So it's splooting.
Splooting, double O, not double T. So yeah, it's when your animal is hot and they spread all their limbs out on, my dog does it on a tile floor to cool itself off. But yeah, they're basically just spread eagle all four.
I brought this up because I was out for my walk yesterday and I saw a squirrel that was laying like that on
splooted.
Yeah. And so I asked somebody and they said, oh, it's splotting. So, okay, thank you, Eddie. It's splooting.
Yeah, come on, Eddie.
The squirrel was splooting.
Yeah. Sploot is a very, a lot of people use it to describe their dog because dogs do this very often. Get their belly all cool.
Well, it's warm out.
It is. It's very warm out.
I'm not sure the squirrel was the smartest thing because it was on a hot pavement.
Yeah, I mean, squirrels are sometimes not super bright. You'd like to do it on a cooler surface. I feel like the pavement is probably making the situation work. Maybe the squirrel was cold. Maybe the squirrel had a circulation issue.
It was hot yesterday. That squirrel wasn't moving. And I walked right by it and it was not.
Are you sure it was alive?
Oh, it was alive.
Okay, good.
I checked.
That's good. You just get a little nudge.
Its forehead was moving.
Oh, okay.
Wasn't going to bother it.
That's fair. It's very kind of you.
We share the Keystone Trail.
Very humanitarian of you to not bother the splooting squirrel.
So I thought it was splotting.
Very
and I was all excited. I was going to have scoreboard on Chance and his Animal Planet. Splooting squirrels.
Yeah, splooting.
So today, folks, it's going to be hot for the next couple of days. So if at any point you just want to sploot,
yeah, just
go ahead and sploot.
But find a cool surface. Don't do it on pavement. That's a bad idea. The squirrel was halfway there. Got the sploot right, got the surface wrong.
That was an hour.
It certainly was.
Of the morning show.
We'll try and do better next.
Sharp and betting in the morning on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and the 1620 The Zone app. Here are Gary Sharp and Ravi Lula.
But NIL, like I say, guys, there's no rules. Each state has its own rules. I mean, it's not just an NCAA thing or a national thing. There's each state, like for instance, in Texas, we cannot bring up NIL to a recruit. We can't say it, we can't promise. All we can say, if guys on our team have it, that's all we can say. Other states can prevent written contracts. They can send you a written contract to a guy. I've been going through that in the recruiting thing. It's just the world we're in, and we're frustrated because there's no unification of what happens and the way it happens. You know what I mean? And it's just a different day and time. But listen, change is inevitable. That's the rules we have to play by, so we all have to adapt and adjust. And if you either adapt and adjust or you don't, one of the two.
It's kind of life. That's the fast talker, Jimbo Fisher. SEC media days are over. There have been times during the 4 days that it sounds like whining NIL out of the SEC. So do something about it.
Is it?
I know it's posturing. I know it's all about recruiting and promoting and, hey, this is what you can make at our place. But it comes across as whining. Do something about it as a whole. I know that each state has different laws and you're relying on the NCAA to come up with guardrails. But coaches take the lead and let's fix it so it doesn't come across as just complete whining. And that's what it has for 4 days. So do something about it. Get together.
Yeah.
Let's fix this and fix it where it first of all benefits the student athlete, but also it benefits the universities and everything that goes into it, because it's not going away.
No.
It is not going away. But for 4 days, SEC coaches, you sound like whiners.
They have. They sound like they've been just whining and complaining about the most first world problems ever, because these are your, rich suburban version of college football. Like, you're living the good life out there. You're not having to worry about too much. And they're complaining more or less about, well, I have to do all these things, X, Y, and Z, to make sure I don't violate my state law about NIL. And so it makes it much, much harder to pay my players. It's like, okay, you can play the world's tiniest violin for me. Like, I do find it shocking, though, that Texas has more restrictive NIL laws than someone, because I have to imagine everyone in that state legislature wants to make it as easy as possible for A, their football teams to be good, and B, to do whatever is necessary to do that. Because isn't that the reason that Quinn Ewers went to Ohio State in the first place, is because he couldn't make NIL money as a high school kid? Which is shocking to me with the state of high school football in Texas. I can't believe that's a thing. I can't believe there's anyone in the country that has looser NIL laws than Texas, because to me, I would have just imagined they would have basically been like, hey, blank check, do whatever you need to. Let's win some football games.
I have a feeling that, so the Big Ten is the Pac-12 has 1 day of media day next week.
And that's probably overkill, to be honest.
The Big Ten has their 2 days. Outside of maybe Ohio State will get asked, because it's well known that they have a large collective. Maybe Iowa, who just introduced a big collective, Wisconsin. I don't think the NIL talk in the Big Ten will be as prevalent as it was in the SEC, because I think all 14 coaches in their opening statement talked about NIL.
Well, it's the tone that was set by Nick Saban all summer, right? With, complaining about Ole Miss, complaining about Texas A&M. And, as we said, he's the most powerful man in college football, is Nick Saban. If he is
1B, Greg Sankey.
1B, second most powerful man in college football.
Who squashed the Saban-Fisher feud.
Fair enough. But if Nick Saban is leading the charge on, hey, this is the thing that I'm going to talk about, he almost forces every other school to talk about it in response, because it can't seem like they're behind. And if he's talking about it all the time, they have to just to say, yeah, we do all these things too. Like, you can come to us and get paid. You can come play football at South Carolina and you'll make money too. I'm sure Spencer Rattler's making a pretty dime, I'm sure.
He is. 36 days away from Nebraska Northwestern. Again, Nebraska has media day in Indianapolis early Tuesday morning, and then they have fan day, and then camp will be open, and then they'll play a game in 36 days. And if they win in Ireland, just get ready. There will be a blitz to sell out the Oklahoma game for any tickets that are remaining. There are
lot of people that are in the wait and see mode for that game. Even Oklahoma fans. There's going to, just like there was last year in Norman, there will be a good amount of Nebraska fans that went down to Norman.
Yeah.
There will be a good amount of Oklahoma fans that will come up here for that game. But the seats that they have left for that game, I think if Nebraska beats Northwestern, you will almost see an immediate blitz to make sure that that game is sold out before you ever get to game week, because there's a lot of people that are like, if you don't win, man, do I really want to go to the Oklahoma game? If you win, you go, oh, okay, sign me up.
Yeah.
It's 36 days away.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're an Oklahoma fan, do you really want to come all the way up to Nebraska if Nebraska's trash? Like, is that a way that you want to spend your time and money? Maybe, maybe just for the nostalgia of it all. I think a lot of Nebraska fans who expected the game to go a lot worse than it did last year went down to Oklahoma anyway because they missed the rivalry and they, missed the...
I don't think an Oklahoma fan, they're coming because it's Lincoln, and they haven't been here for over a decade. I don't think Nebraska being 3-0 or 1-2 or 2-1, whatever they might be.
You don't think that affects them at all?
No, they're coming because they're coming to Lincoln. They haven't been to Memorial Stadium. They like their first time, or they've heard about Memorial Stadium, and they're coming because it's Nebraska and Oklahoma, and it's going to be one of the top non-conference games. It's the local people that you want to make sure that you put more local butts in your stadium than people that are wearing a different shade of red. Now, when those people come up here, they're going to be supporting a coach who took over for a coach that is the second highest paid coach in college football. Now, he used to be the first until yesterday happened, and Kirby Smart got an extension. Well-deserved when you're 66-15 and you're a homegrown guy and you won a national championship.
You're coming off a natty.
And you are churning away. You say, here you go, 10 years, $111 million. So you become the highest paid football coach in college football. But here's what also happened yesterday. Kyler Murray became one of the highest paid players in the NFL quarterback with the $160 million that he got guaranteed by Arizona in his 5 years, $230.5 million. Not as large a guarantee as Deshaun Watson, but Deshaun Watson's contract with the guaranteed money has reset that market. There is no middle-class salary for quarterbacks in the NFL.
No.
We're seeing that with wide receivers. So Watson's contract is kind of a standalone because of the guaranteed money. The $160 is guaranteed, which is a large amount. And it's all about timing with contracts for the quarterbacks when you're coming up. I mean, I look at it from the Chiefs' standpoint. Thank God they got Mahomes' deal done when they did.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like a bargain.
Because next year, because Herbert and Lamar Jackson and Burrow are on the horizon of the next quarterbacks that are coming up that they're going to get paid, is Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes could be the 8th and 9th highest paid quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
And they are, play-wise, top 3. But it's all about timing. I mean, if we looked at, in the NFL, the highest paid players compared to the best at their particular position, they don't always match up. But Kyler Murray came along. It was his turn. He got paid. He held Arizona hostage. He had all the power. Boom, got paid. But it was Deshaun Watson that has reset that market. It's Devontae Adams that has reset the wide receiver market. I think something in college football. Mel Tucker reset the coaches' contract. Now, most coaches, like the highest paid college football coaches, we could go through the list, and there's a lot of times you're not going to disagree. Oh, yeah, he should be one of the highest.
Yeah, like, most of them make sense.
Like Nick Saban, at one point at $9.7 million, used to be the highest paid college football coach, and you could go,
that checks out.
Man, he should be paid more.
I was going to say, for what he brings to the university is probably dramatically underpaid.
But Mel Tucker's deal, where Mel Tucker, things might be trending in the right direction in East Lansing. Mel Tucker's paid $9.5 million.
Mel Tucker's had one good year.
$9.5 million. But when that contract came along, it completely reset the market. So as we speak, Kirby Smart is the #1 paid college football coach in America. Anybody fighting that? Other than, man, he hasn't been a head coach for a long time, and this is a key year because he lost 15 guys that got drafted. Now everybody's going to be talking about Georgia. Once you climb the mountain, can you stay on top of the mountain? that would be the hesitation on Kirby Smart. But you're 66-15, and Georgia is becoming one of the largest. I mean, you're just reiterating what Mark Richt couldn't do, but had him in a place. Georgia is college football.
This feels a little bit like an NBA max deal to me, in the fact that you have to give him that money, but there's a lot of max deals where you don't necessarily feel 100% okay about it. You know, when you max out, you know, prime LeBron, for example, you feel great about that. That's the Nick Saban contract, is when you max out prime LeBron. You're like, yep, whatever the number is, however much we can pay you, we will happily give you that number. This is probably closer to, I don't want to say the Zion contract because that's not enough of a track record, but let's say Karl Anthony Towns just got paid.
Yes.
It's probably, Kirby Smart's probably better than Karl Anthony Towns, but Karl Anthony Towns is one of the most talented centers in the league. Is that fair? Do you feel great about paying him the money you did?
No, but you kind of had to.
But you had to, right?
Had to.
Because you can't let him go.
It's kind of like the Kyler Murray yesterday.
Yeah, the cost of replacing that person is so much higher than the cost of just paying them, even if you're over by just a little. Because what's a number you would have felt good at for Kirby Smart, no questions asked? Like 7.5, 8?
$8 million.
You wouldn't have had any questions, wouldn't have had a second thought.
Listen to us just throwing around $8 million.
No, you know what I mean, though.
Yeah.
I mean, we understand that, like, sports money numbers aren't real numbers. I mean, they are, but they're outside of the realm of, you know, most people's reality. But at $8 million, you wouldn't have blinked twice at a Kirby Smart extension, right?
Nope.
So the cost of keeping him keeping him happy instead of trying to save that money is what, $2.3 million a year? That's the cost of doing business, and it's worth it.
So Lincoln Riley, USC doesn't have to make his contract public, but most people assume it's $10+ million. Okay? He was 55-10 at Oklahoma, went to the playoff, and you look at his recruiting, his Heisman Trophy quarterbacks, you're USC football, and now you've recommitted to football.
Lincoln Riley is a pretty similar case to Kirby Smart, though, right?
Except he doesn't have a national championship.
Well, that's what I mean, though, is you've got a lot of success in a not super long period of time, and while I think everyone would bet on it continuing, you're not 100% sure they can stay on the mountaintop.
Third is Saban at $9.7 million.
Underpaid.
Number one coach in college football.
Underpaid.
Then you have Brian Kelly. Goes from Notre Dame to LSU, makes $9.5 million to be a CEO. By the way, Brian Kelly is a CEO.
Yeah.
He is. So
he used to be a lot more hands-on.
The model of the CEO, Brian Kelly at Notre Dame at the end of his tenure at Notre Dame was the CEO model.
Yes.
At LSU, he is the CEO
Would
model.
you describe Saban as a CEO?
No, because he is still very much hands-on.
Okay.
Like, very much hands-on. Not to say that Brian Kelly is not, but I think Brian Kelly has backed away from being involved in every single aspect and taking on a particular position. Because Saban essentially still coaches defensive backs at Alabama.
Okay, fair enough. That was going to be my next question, was because I know they're kind of different versions of a hands-on coach. You have the ones that are actively calling plays and whether on the offensive or defense side of the ball, and the ones that are essentially their own coordinator. And then you have ones that seem to be very hands-on, but they're not necessarily a coordinator type. Like Jimbo Fisher essentially is his own quarterbacks coach. That's kind of how he's always been. He called his own plays for a while. I'm not sure if he still does. But I think some people would think of, even though Saban appears to be very hands-on, would think of him as more of a CEO because he has coordinators that do his work. But, you know, coaching the defensive backs, basically being a position coach, kind of takes that out of the
So this is what I was told. We have talked a lot about what a CEO role looks like for Scott Frost.
Yeah.
At Notre Dame, I heard on a podcast, actually it was a current player was talking about the difference between Brian Kelly and Marcus Freeman. And they weren't choosing their favorite. They just talked about how they went about things nowadays. He said during the summer you wouldn't see a lot of Coach Kelly. He would be gone. Marcus Freeman, different, also a first-year head coach, is
dramatically younger.
Is there in the weight room, He is there on the reps. He is there when he can be, and is more hands-on. And I think you get younger coaches that they are more hands-on, and then as you get a little bit older and you feel good about your structure, you can you move yourself into a CE role instead of somebody else moving you. Well, so like Brian Kelly is $9.5 million.
It's like fourth. It's like a startup, right? Yeah. If you're the CEO of a startup, you're going to be very hands-on. You're in the nitty-gritty. Like when Jeff Bezos starts Amazon, he's like putting the packages together and writing the code for the website and things like that. As Amazon grows, he obviously moves out of that type of role, even though he's technically been the CEO.
Yeah, it's like owning a restaurant. I mean, to begin a restaurant, you're there like
you're the head
waking
chef.
Out.
Yeah, you're cooking the food, you're cleaning the you're cleaning the grill, you're doing everything. Yeah.
Okay, so Mel Tucker, $9.5 million. He reset the market.
That feels too high for like he feels like the Zion Williamson contract, the Zion Williamson max contract. That's what Mel Tucker feels like to me.
The base is about $6 million. We broke it down last fall when he signed this, and people went, "Excuse me?"
Again, probably have to pay him, but there's a pretty uneasy feeling about it, I would say.
So Ryan Day, $9.5 million.
Probably underpaid. Or does that feel right to you?
Feels right. Remember, he hasn't been a head coach for a while, but I would take 34-4.
That's solid. Yeah.
During the COVID year, he played in the national championship game, but 9.5 at Ohio State sounds right.
Okay.
Or I don't, whoever is coaching there. Okay. Now, another salary that's not made public, but we can speculate. David Shaw, 8.9.
That used to feel like it made sense. It feels very high now.
Stanford football is 11-19 in the last 3 years.
I used to love David Shaw. I thought he was...
I still love David Shaw.
I still think he's a very good coach. It's a really hard place to sustain success.
I don't, maybe Emmett Smith's kid bails him out this year.
Maybe.
I don't know where they're going. And how long David Shaw stays there, there's a lot of things you have to deal with on the farm. But the fact is they're 11-19 in the last 3 years.
He probably missed his opportunity to move on to a bigger, better job, but he's a Stanford guy, and so I don't know that he kind of feels like Pat Fitzgerald. Like, I just don't know if he's ever leaving.
Well, the thing that comes up with David Shaw is, he took over for Harbaugh, so they had the stretch of 5 double-digit win seasons.
Yeah.
But there will be what did Harbaugh leave for you? David Shaw is a good person and a good football coach, but you're 11-19 in the last 3 years, and if I'm hammering one of these guys on the list for not winning, the wins to salary ratio, you're gonna stop and go,
yeah, he's in that category.
Dabo Sweeney, 8.3. Mario Cristobal. So the Mel Tucker contract resets the college football coach, but then you go to a place that is recommitting to football. Like USC has recommitted to football.
Yeah.
So they're willing to open up the bank. Miami recommitted to football, and for anybody that knows the Miami Athletic Department and what they've gone through with coaches and what they pay them, even their great coaches, Miami is paying their football coach named Mario Cristobal $8 million.
Real quick,
that is more than recommitting to football.
Oh,
in Miami.
yeah.
And Kevin Steele, who is running his defense, and Josh Gaddis, who is running his offense,
Michigan,
are paid higher than any assistant has been paid at Miami.
Which Miami, I think, had a reputation for a while of being cheap. And so when you have that reputation, you do have to overpay. I wanted to ask you about, you said Dabo was 8.3? Mm-hmm. Underpaid, or is that right?
Sounds about right.
Okay. Because 2 years ago, being this far down on the list would have felt underpaid, right? You think?
Yep.
Okay.
But he's been in the playoffs 6 of the last 7 years.
Which is pretty good. That's why you could make an argument he's a little underpaid.
So at one point, talking about guaranteed contracts, remember when Jimbo Fisher left Florida State to go to Texas A&M and he got 10 years, $75 million, all guaranteed?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not. He's just hanging on at 10.
Which
Lane Kiffin is 7.2. Harbaugh and James Franklin are a little over $7 million.
Which, for what you've gotten out of Jimbo Fisher, I don't think you can make the argument he deserves more, right? They haven't really gotten over that hump yet.
And I don't know how excited I would be at Texas A&M after giving guys 75 guaranteed that I would say, hey, let's renegotiate.
Yeah, 100%. Harbaugh back up where, probably in the neighborhood he should be in. I love Lane Kiffin, but that's honestly probably a little high, but that's the cost of doing business in the SEC.
You committed to Lane Kiffin, so you're going to pay him
100%, yeah.
So this is what's going to happen. So Kirby Smart gets paid. And, of the coaches that we just ran through, there's not a lot that are like out on the outside edge. They're like, okay, they're the next $7 million guy. No. But $7 million is going to be the going rate and higher. It's going to escalate because there's another factor here. I truly believe that the next football contract that is signed at Nebraska, whether it be the current guy or new guy, will start with a 7.
Really?
Why not? Because you know what else is in play here with all of these coaches' salaries in college football? The TV contracts have increased the money.
You're right.
And so Mel Tucker reset the market for coaches, even coaches that don't have bling on their finger.
A ton of track record.
But the TV deal will reset the market for even the Pat Fitzgeralds and the PJ Flecks and the Kirk Ferentzes and Ferentz is paid extremely well. The Paul Chris that are on the edge that have to redo their contracts or get an extension, that the TV contract takes care of it, or mega football powers that want to recommit to football, they're going to have to pay the price, and now they have the extra money to pay it.
So let me ask you this. We'll bring this back to Nebraska here, because you said you think the next contract starts with a 7. Let's say, what's a good no-brainer Scott Frost returns season? 8-4?
Give me 7-5.
Okay, that's what you think they're going to go, or you think that's what a good season looks like?
Be a good season.
Okay, so let's say they go 7-5 this year. Okay, headed in the right direction. You got all the pieces moving on the board the way you want. Let's say they go 7-5 this year and 9-3 next year. Okay, you're probably renegotiating at that point. No,
the guy that's signing the paycheck, not so fast.
Maybe not.
But the people that represent the guy that's won 16 games in this scenario would probably say, hey, can we go down to the mill and talk?
So
we
here's
have some coffee, and I'm going to bring a folder with a bunch of papers in it with a pen.
So here's my question. They go 7-5 this year, 9-3 next year. Obviously a hypothetical situation. Are you comfortable if Scott Frost's next paycheck starts with a 7 2 years from now, if that's how it's gone?
If it's now going upward,
7-5, 9-3,
no problem.
You feel okay?
Mm-hmm. Because he's proven back to back. Now I might can you do it a third year, and then we're really talking.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of asked the question, because, okay, 7-5 is certainly progress. In the grand scheme of college football, that's a mediocre year, right? In the grand scheme of college football.
We're talking about Nebraska, which went 3-9 last year.
Sure.
A 4-win jump would be significant.
Good progress.
And then you said 9, so then you would be 2 above that.
So let's say you're 9-3, but you don't win a division. Let's say you're second in the West. I think there's still a decent amount of people who would not feel comfortable with that $7 million extension until they see it a third year. Mm-hmm. Is that a fair hesitation to have?
I would say so.
Because and listen, you might not...
Because you remember, you also did this when you had really, former athletic director liked to spend money without results.
Yeah.
So you say, I'm a guy that I'm going to reward you, but I'm going to reward you for the results.
I'm going to reward you for performance, not reward you on projection.
And reward you for consistency. Because once we take a step forward, we're not taking a step back. We got to take another step forward, and then maybe that step forward is pretty good. Let's stay right there, or let's take another step. Because whatever happens this year, whatever number you set and you reach, and things are in place to turn to 23, and you like where you're headed, you can't go back.
So that's a new floor.
Yeah, you can't. Right. You establish this year what is the floor.
Yeah.
Like if you get to 6 or you get to 7, you're not going below 7.
You can't go back to we didn't make a bowl game again.
Yeah.
That's if you do that, it's over, right?
And that's that you can't. And that's well known. I mean, and I wouldn't want it any other way. I mean, nobody wants to, because you can't be a yo-yo.
No.
Once you establish that you can't be the yo-yo, you got to keep moving upward.
You can't be Auburn where it's okay, win a national title under Gene Chizik, we're 3-9 2 years later, back in the national title game with Gus Malzahn, then we're back firing a head coach. Like that can't be your program.
And there's a reason why Gus Malzahn and Gene Chizik were after reaching that point. By the way, hearing Harsin speak, I would never want to coach at Auburn.
No.
I would never. I mean, that just sounds from the outside, it looks like a great job. The fan support. You're in the SEC.
I don't
state
think
of
it's
Alabama.
a good job.
But then you get inside of it and you see who's making decisions.
Not just who's making decisions, but Auburn thinks they're Alabama and they're not.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, they used to think that when Alabama was not to the level they're at now. When Cam Newton was playing quarterback and they were winning a national championship, a decade later they don't think that. I think they know their place because the realistic people know their place. So there might be some Auburn fans that say, yeah, we can compete with Alabama, but the truth is they haven't been able to do that consistently.
Sure.
A decade ago, I would agree with you.
Okay.
But I think Auburn knows what their place is.
They've been humbled a little bit.
Yeah, you also got to look in the mirror and go, those guys in Tuscaloosa and us down here in Auburn, there's a drastic difference.
They look different.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, 7:40. Brandon Vogel, Mike Schaefer coming up in the next hour. Mike Schaefer as well. Matt Berzal on a Friday edition before we close out the week on Sharp and Betting in the Morning at 1620 The Zone.
In a tiny apartment in Southern California.
Super chill guy.
Apologize to the Big Ten, kind of. Did not apologize to Mark Whipple. But my question is, do you think the casual football fan knows that Pittsburgh is the defending ACC champion? The casual college football fan, they realize that Pitt beat Wake Forest to win the ACC last year.
Well, I would consider myself a more than casual college football fan, and it took me a minute to remember that Wake Forest was in the ACC championship game last year, because there's something that just feels inherently wrong about that. But yeah, if you don't follow the ACC, like let's say you're a Nebraska fan or a Big Ten fan, I could see how it would very easily slip your mind that Pitt was the ACC champ.
And this discussion is what's wrong with the ACC. Because if Clemson is playing, even if Clemson loses, you're like, yeah, man, I watched Clemson play.
Yeah, even Miami.
How many people, when it was matched up against Iowa, Michigan in the Big Ten championship game, watched Wake Forest and Pitt play on, ABC?
I would say no one.
Yeah. So sorry, Dave Clawson. I know you got a great thing going there at
Listen,
Wake
I think
Forest.
Dave Clawson's a terrific coach. You can win at Wake Forest. I think you can win just about anywhere.
Not in the $7 million club.
No.
I left out Kirk Ferentz is in the $7 million club. $7 million may get you in the door at the next contract in the Big Ten with the new TV.
I don't know if there's... I mean, there's a couple schools I could see not offering that if their job was open. Like, does Indiana offer $7 million if their job's open?
Is Mike Woodson going to coach both?
Like, does Rutgers offer $7 million if their job's open?
Ooh, living expenses are tight.
Yeah,
you might have to have a living wage.
Yeah, I would think Maryland would. Maryland seems like they would pay the $7 million.
It's tough. They're still fixing their finances.
Are they?
But places. So, I mean, yes. Okay, it's all about timing, and your job opens up, and the market says, in a conference that is getting an influx of huge TV money, 7 appears to be the going rate. If you spend that, does that tell your fan base that you are committing to football because you're paying?
Yeah.
But also, what does a $7 million coach look like?
So that's the other thing is if you get a first-time head coach, you can get away with paying them less, right? That makes sense. If you're at a place, and frankly, if you're at a place like Indiana, Rutgers, or Maryland and your job opens up, although if their finances are straight or can get straight, I actually think Maryland is a sneaky good job. But if you're at a place like Indiana or Rutgers or let's say Northwestern comes open for some reason, or even Illinois, I think if you hire a first-time head coach, you can get away with paying them somewhere between like 4 and 5 because, they're unproven. You're not talking about somebody with a track record. If you want somebody that's been a successful head coach somewhere else, especially in the Big Ten, that starts at 7.
Pat Fitzgerald, the Northwestern job. So Pat Fitzgerald, again, they don't have to make their salary public, but people have put 2 and 2 together, and they think it's around $6 million. Or considering what he has done for that university, you could say, well, isn't he under? Well, that's the going rate at Northwestern at $6 million.
Mm-hmm.
What does Pat Fitzgerald on the open market garner, and what does the next coach at Northwestern that is not an alum that leaves a job that it's open for the first time in a decade and a half? What does Northwestern, with better facilities than when you first originally got Fitzgerald hired, what does a Northwestern job bring? Does a Mel Tucker reset a Northwestern job, and does it reset a market for a guy like Pat Fitzgerald if he ever decides to leave Evanston and he would be on the open market?
Yeah, I don't think the Mel Tucker contract affects Northwestern the way that it would a Pat Fitzgerald. I think Pat Fitzgerald, listen, I don't think he's getting Mel Tucker money, but let's see where he's at as far as head coaching record. Because it's really hard. So he's barely over 500 as a head coach. Now, I know we all know that Northwestern, he's 109 and 90, so he's a little above 500. He's finished ranked 5 times, including a top 10 finish in 2020. Obviously, they really struggled last year. They were also 3 and 9 in 2019. He has brought them to respectability in a way that really no one else in their history ever has. But you're talking about a guy, he's got 3 10-win seasons in 15 years. I think the perception of Pat Fitzgerald as a coach is very good. But you can make an argument, and listen, I understand that Northwestern's an unbelievably hard job. But you can make the argument that on the open market, he's worth less to other people than he is to Northwestern.
Ooh, I think he would
he's
make
on
the
more.
open market, because I could say to you, hey, you know that I've been in the Big Ten championship game 2 of the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Have you seen my first round guys? I'm going to have a first round offensive tackle this year. Do you know that I've been in the championship game more in the last 4 years than Wisconsin and Iowa have been? I think on the open market, he would get a lot of love.
7.5, 8.
He would get a lot of love.
I think he would too. I guess so. My point is less about the money and more about, are you 100% sure that he would be better than this somewhere else? I think he's a good football coach. I really do. And I respect Northwestern. That's part of the reason I'm so nervous about that opening game in Dublin, right? Because I trust Pat Fitzgerald to have his troops in a line and be ready to go in a weird situation more than I do Nebraska at this point. But he's had a really long time at Northwestern, and a lot of his seasons, now they've gotten, I would say, progressively better, but again, 2 of the last 5 seasons are 3 and 9.
Last year they were awful.
2019 they were bad.
And there will be preseason the worst team in the Big Ten this year.
Other than that, you've got 10 and 3, 9 and 5, 7 and 2 in the 2020 shortened season. I just wouldn't be shocked if he goes somewhere else, gets that big contract, and isn't any more successful than he is at Northwestern.
Ed says the next big one in the Big Ten discussion, and this would be not really a recommitment to football, but it would be the first, I think with their athletic director at UCLA, I don't think he hired Chip Kelly. What would UCLA's salary be? Because Chip Kelly makes $4.6 million right now.
Well, and they have some money issues, right? UCLA's got some financial issues.
Oh, they did until a couple of weeks ago.
Well, yes. They're still in the hole until about 2024, though, when that first check clears.
I mean, as long as they keep Gavin Newsom abreast that they're going to pay Chip Kelly $7 million after they win another 8 or 9 games this year. But UCLA would be under they're the job that could be open, that has Big Ten money in a couple of years, if they are a full member, which I'm not
not sure.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work.
Making a commitment to football now that you're joining a competitive football conference. What does your salary look like? When historically at UCLA, I mean, Carl Durrell was not making $5 million. Okay. Bob Toledo was not making $5 million. Hell, Terry Donahue never made $5 million. Jim Mora never made $5 million.
Well, I mean,
now the next contract at UCLA has to reflect a commitment to football.
Until 10 or 15 years ago, $5 million was kind of an unheard of number in terms of head coaching salaries anyway. But another Big Ten school that I'm not totally sure they're going to pay the money other people do. What do you think? Do you know what Paul Chryst makes at Wisconsin?
I want to say that he's somewhere between 5 and 6.
He's a 5.25.
Okay.
Do they, if let's say it doesn't work out there for whatever reason, or he moves on and whatever, do they pony up the 7 for the next head coach?
Yes.
Yeah.
New athletic director. Football is their sport. They've invested a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that'd be a no-brainer.
Does Paul Chryst get 7 if he is successful and gets an extension?
Yes.
Okay.
He would be headed in that direction, win a division, then win a Big Ten championship.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But he's also, do you play the game of, man, he would never leave here. He's perfect. He's back.
Well, that's
it's a fit.
kind of what
can we lowball him, or do we take care of him in other ways?
Yeah.
It's the game you have to play as an athletic director.
Not super expensive to live in Madison.
All right, 7:56 coming up after the top of the hour. Brandon Vogel will join us. Also, Mike Schaefer as well in the next hour. Sharp Betting in the morning. There's Robbie Chance here as well. Chance is wide awake today.
Feeling good.
He got off to a good start. Now we got to keep him going for the next couple of hours. I'm giving it 16:20 the zone.
Ever wondered?
Channels, Robbie. Roadhouse was on AMC, so I had to stop.
Stop for Road. You're a big Patrick Swayze guy?
It is one of the worst movies ever.
I don't know that I've ever seen Roadhouse.
One of the best worst movies ever.
I don't think I've ever seen Roadhouse.
We'll have to have a watch party. How could you not? Like it's there is a run where it will pop up and it seems like then it's on all the time.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen it in a while, so I had to watch a little bit of it.
It was
God, the acting was so bad.
A little before my time, so it didn't catch me in my. It didn't catch me in the right years, I don't think.
Do you remember when? And I don't want to put words in your mouth. Remember when you used to know who the fastest man in the world was?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like most.
It was a big deal.
Yeah, a lot of sports fans could rattle off Usain Bolt or whoever might be the fastest guy in the 100.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head right now.
I can't do it now. But last night, also on TV, is whatever people were watching, Noah Lyles
broke the American 200 record, right?
26-year record, 19.3.
Yeah,
in the 200.
Yeah, it was. So Michael Johnson set it in '96 in the Olympics. I think he just beat it by 100th of a second. It was like 9.32 to 9.31 is what he lowered it to. I don't know how much faster you can run a 200 than that.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to get in that area where it's like, yeah, I don't know how much further down we have to go.
And this was in the Worlds. How does anybody compete against Oregon's track stadium?
Yeah. I mean, some of the SEC schools are really good at track. But, yeah, the way that Oregon invests in track because of kind of their history and Nike and Prefontaine and all that kind of stuff, I don't know that there's anyone that can actually compete with Oregon there.
I mean, that thing is unbelievable in Eugene. I mean, it's a palace. But I remember even as a little kid, you knew who the fastest man in the world was. And, track and field is not as front and center as maybe it used to be 20 years ago, because you can't rattle off every, Carl Lewis doesn't roll off your tongue, Edwin Moses, Flo Joe. But to see that last night, wow, 19.31. How far do you think you could cover, Chance? 19 seconds, 19 and 3/10.
Oh, maybe 100. No, I don't think so. I think I could I'm not sure I can cover 100 in 19.3 seconds. Like, that's 100's a lot longer than you think. I think maybe I could cover 100 in 19.3. Probably I'd feel more comfortable at like 80.
I could give me 65.
Yeah, I think we're all under 100. I think is the point here.
So great athletes. So Usain Bolt is still considered the fastest man in the world,
and still holds the world record at 200. This is just the American record last night. There's no. I mean, he doesn't run anymore, right? I think he's retired from racing. So I was trying to find the fastest.
Fred Curley is now the world's fastest man. Former Texas A&M star, won the 100 in 9.86.
This year?
At the Worlds, yes.
So the fastest...
But I don't know how many people can tell you that Fred, unless you're in the track and field world, that Fred Curley is the world's fastest man.
Yeah, so
they gotta market Fred a little bit more.
It looks like he's run as low as a 9.76 this year. Not in this championship.
And what are we doing here?
He's still like, what is he? He's still 0.2 off of Bolt's record. Can you remember when 9.76 would have just destroyed the world record? I mean, I can't. I used to remember when somebody broke 10 and it was like a huge deal.
Yeah.
Now it's like, this guy we've never heard of is running a 9.76.
All right, we've heard of Brandon Vogel. He's going to join us next on Sharp Betting in the Morning at 1620 The Zone.
Progressive knows that most people don't get to experience me.
On 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and the 1620 The Zone app. Here are Gary Sharp and Ravi Lula.
I have great respect for Nick and that's unfortunately our thing went public, and that's sometimes that happens in this world. Nothing's private anymore, is it? Anyway, but no, we have great respect for Nick, and we all learn from him. We all will learn. Like I say, that he was learned. Hopefully I learn from things we do and say, and we move on from there. But have great respect for him in their program like always.
Remember that when that was a thing back in May? We fretted over it. We wondered what the October 8th game would be like.
Were they ever going to be friends again?
Yeah.
I was very concerned.
So Greg Sankey probably got on the phone immediately and put the fear of God into Saban and Fisher, which is probably one of the rare people that could pick up the phone and call both of them and say, this is enough.
That's why he's 1A, right?
Yes, we're going to squash this. Yeah, Jimbo Fisher, fast talker. Brandon Vogel, deep thinker. Who is, as we welcome Brandon Vogel from Hell Varsity into the show, who is a athlete or somebody that you think is right there with Jimbo Fisher as one of the fastest talkers?
Oh man, I don't even know if anybody comes.
Because you have to transcribe stuff. I mean, just transcribing Jimbo Fisher can't be easy.
And no, it cannot. Which is the nice thing about media days is they do that for you. But if you're on the Texas A&M, get ready for a little more carpal tunnel than I guess maybe all of us are already in store for. And I'm trying to think. I think Lamar Jackson at Nebraska was always pretty brisk. He moved through what he had to say pretty quickly. That's the first one that comes to mind of a recent vintage.
He did. He spoke, and he was always excited. So that may have added to him speaking really, really fast. But I don't know anybody can compete with Jimbo Fisher. All right, let's dive into some things here. You know that this is the last Friday before there is football for a while, and then we can get to see Mark Whipple's offense. So the discussion about from Narduzzi, and we've sifted through every part of what Mark Whipple's offense at an entirely new school with entirely new skill sets will look like and trying to speculate. But where do you stand? And you've alluded to this a little bit, but now let's go a little bit deeper. The 50-50 balance. How realistic in the game of football actually is it? And is it more than being 50-50? Are we going to parse through it and separate it by like downs? Like I use the number, Brandon, 64% of the standard rundowns teams in the West run. The national average is 59%. what will Mark Whipple's offense, you think, after the Iowa game, when we go through all the numbers, look like?
Yeah, I think it could trend towards 50-50. Now, teams rarely end up there. And the thing about this is, so whether you want to look at it by down and what you just mentioned there, sort of standard down run rates. So standard downs is, first and 10, second and 5, where the offense can basically do whatever it wants. It can, if it's a pass first team, it's probably going to pass a lot then. If it's a run first team, probably run a lot then. But so much of this depends on kind of game state. And Pitt, so I was looking at this morning because kind of got back from a couple days away, and Petro dominated the week in Nebraska, which I didn't see coming. But Pitt had a lead for 55% of its plays last year. Nebraska had a lead for 29%. Ooh. That changes things.
Yes,
that
does.
changes what you're able to do.
Okay.
It changes what you want to do. And you can look at Pitt and 42% run when they had the lead, or 42% pass, meaning 58% run when they had a lead. When it was tied, 63% pass. So, I mean, that's just a quick example of how these things can shift. And at the end of the year, when you have, a couple, almost 1,000 plays probably, that's the difference between being a 53% run team or a 53% pass team. Might just be how much you were ahead.
Brandon, you mentioned the game state as a factor here, but I also kind of feel like, will Nebraska fans feel like we're running the ball more when they're running back run plays rather than quarterback run plays? Because for some reason, at least in my mind, those feel a lot different in terms of how the game's being called.
Yeah, I think it will feel different. And, ultimately, it was a bit strange to hear Narduzzi kind of come out and be this animated about it, particularly this long after the fact, because as we all know, it doesn't really matter how much you're doing something. It matters how well. So remove garbage time, and I think Nebraska was at about 54% run, and Pitt was about 44. So that's the split there. But Pitt had a better rushing success rate. Wasn't more explosive. That's kind of the difference. And when I look at this, between kind of, are you efficient? Are you explosive? Georgia and Alabama, Clemson, when it's humming, Ohio State, they're both. And I mean, that's what marks kind of like elite football. But given the choice, I would take efficiency, being able to stay on schedule and pick up yards consistently versus a much more volatile explosiveness, which has been kind of where Nebraska has been at of late. So they ran the ball less last year. There's no debating that. But you could argue they ran it better.
So this is a little tongue-in-cheek, but I don't think I've ever asked you this, because now when you hear Narduzzi talk and his comments the other day, and we go through an offense and we break down the numbers, we keep going back to Bo when he responded to a question. It's about points, ma'am, not about yards. It's about points. Could that just be the simple answer to any of this discussion? It's about points, ma'am, or in your case, sir.
It really is. I mean, because you look at the yards for Nebraska and Pitt, and they're probably closer than you'd think last year. But Pitt averaged over 40 points a game. I mean, they cashed in, and they did it really, really consistently. And that was kind of a 2021 thing for Whipple's offense. It wasn't that way the first 2 years, at least not to that degree. With the Panthers. So we'll see. I'm not saying that that's kind of a trait of a Mark Whipple offense. I think, there's so many years there to go back over. He's kind of been everywhere on the map. He's been really good. He's been average. He's been towards the bottom of the country at times. So for me, big picture, it comes down to maybe he leans pass first. That's where he comes from. That's his preference. But the hope is, the advantage of hiring somebody with 40 years of football experience is that they don't care anymore. They're like, I'm not out here trying to make my name. I've already done that. If we got a running back and it's working, we'll go there, which I guess is what Narduzzi said they wouldn't do last year. But you had the Blitnikoff Award winner and you had a Heisman finalist, and that seemed to work pretty well.
Brandon, I've been having this discussion on Twitter that I think Nebraska fans are at the point, Gary said, just the points, man, but I'm talking about just the wins. Do you think that if Nebraska is able to turn this thing around for a couple years, that people will start to care more about the nature in which they win again, or has this last 5-year stretch kind of changed that thought process in a more permanent way?
Yeah, I think you can always get back there. It feels like a bit of a long road to me. But, as somebody who was, a high school age and during the run in the 90s, like, I remember that vividly of, just, I don't want to, I'll use the term nitpicking, because that was like all there was, because the level was so high that you're talking about, 5, 6, 7, 8 plays that, maybe that makes me a little bit nervous going forward. Those sorts of very, very detailed things. And, as Nebraska over the past decade has, struggled to get back to where it has historically been, I think we've seen, some people say, like, Nebraska fans, and this comes from national people too as well as local people, Nebraska fans don't expect national titles every 4 or 5 years. It's not that anymore. It's like the Wisconsin-Iowa kind of trajectory. It would work here, and maybe it would. But, I think the nature of fandom anywhere is, well, once you hit a level and stay there for a while, it's always about what's next.
The recipe to winning the West, and I look at Wisconsin and Iowa, and those last 3 schools that have won the West, throw in Northwestern. We spend a lot of time here talking about offense because that's where the new coaches for this upcoming season are. But isn't, at the end of the day, the West is always won by defense?
Yes, that I think is a pretty common trend. When those teams you just mentioned, Wisconsin, Iowa, Northwestern, like, they're teams that just are consistently going to hold their opponents to below 20 points a game at the end of the year on average, and they really do a good job of keeping those explosive plays down, which Nebraska did a really good job of that last year too. And I think it's why, at least to me, last year's defense felt a little bit different. There'd been a natural progression. You liked the trend line under Eric Shenander. It felt like a jump, and the points came down quite a bit because they kept those big plays in check. It was a very Big Ten West defense in that specific regard for Nebraska last year. So we'll see if they can maintain that, if they can continue that. It's still, even with the gains Nebraska made a year ago, it's still a different level to holding teams to 17 points a game. And then, the other thing, like, if that's what it takes to win, to go back to, I guess, the offense piece of this, not to belabor the point, but what supplements that? And I think that's an interesting spot for Nebraska, because I don't know if it has been a spot so far where it's like the offense is here to supplement the defense. I think it's the opposite of that, actually. And kind of same deal with Purdue. Purdue had a good season last year. You can do it, but being able to run the ball when everyone knows you're going to is, in the West, it matters.
Brandon, do you think there's a tension at all between trying to build a program that can win in the Big Ten West and trying to build a program that can win beyond that? Because if you look nationally, most programs that are successful have probably, I would say, a lean towards offense. But as you mentioned here, the Big Ten West is built a little different. Do you think there's any sort of struggle between those two ideals at all?
Yeah, I think there is at Nebraska, which I guess obviously that's what we're talking about. But you look at some of those other teams we were just talking about, Northwestern, Wisconsin, Iowa. I don't sense that tension. So I think some of that comes from the coaching staff, where they came from UCF. Just Frost's background on that side of the ball, so that's a piece of it. And I think some of it's a little bit residual of where Nebraska used to be in the national hierarchy and where it's hoping to get back to. It wasn't a program that's like division title first, like let's take this step by step, because for 40 or 50 years it was already it had already cleared those kind of first 2-3 steps in a season's journey. So I think there is some of that tension. It's kind of a big topic, but you have to wonder, like, can Nebraska start kind of making its path back, whatever that looks like, without acknowledging that directly? Is a really interesting question.
By the way, 9 of the 14 schools in the Big Ten were in the top 40 last year in scoring defense. If you're 40th last year, you gave up 23 points or less. Seems to be winnable, but 9 of the 14 schools in the Big Ten, including Nebraska, were in the top 40. All right, 36 days from now, who is Nebraska's starting right tackle?
I mean, I'll still go with Ben Hart because I think Corcoran is going to be a fit. I think they'll start with Corcoran at one of the guard spots, and Ben Hart will get his shot at right tackle still. Though you think back to Northwestern, which again, like, is one game ideal conditions for Nebraska when you hit for a 70-yard pass on your first play. That line looked pretty good. So I think it'll be Ben Hart, but I think that'll be a situation to monitor if results don't come pretty quickly.
Brandon, if you could make a wish and guarantee above average play at any position group, would it be offensive line?
Yes. I mean, it's so hard in the Big Ten to win with just average play. It really is, because, well, to the number Gary just mentioned about scoring defense. So you're 10th in the Big Ten in scoring defense. You might be under 20, 26, 20, 25 points a game, which is good. It's better than the national average, but you're 10th in your league. I feel it's that way with the offensive line too. You just get such consistently good offensive line play, particularly in the West Division. Well, Michigan's been really good. Ohio State's always going to be super, super talented. But you have the usual suspects in the West, and then, like last year, Minnesota's going to jump up and have one of the best, 30 offensive lines in the country. So you got to deal with that. And Northwestern might have a pretty good offensive line this year too. So if I could lock anything in, yes, give me above average offensive line play, because I feel like that's the kind of quickest route to giving yourself the best shot in the Big Ten.
The top non-Nebraska storyline next week in Indianapolis.
Might be, well, for me, it might be Michigan State and just Mel Tucker. I'm super, super interested in that. Like, we can look at the transfer portal, and I think, well, Tucker has said, like, this isn't, I got a ton of credit for that, and that was great, and it vaulted us, but that's not how I want to build this thing long term. I think Mel Tucker's a really good coach, and I think he's running up against, coming off last year, a team that was probably a little bit inflated. The record was better than what they had actually earned, which of course is what you want from a coach. It's where you want to be, a coach who can maximize things. So I'll be super interested in just kind of the feeling around Michigan State. Michigan will be a little bit that way too, but for me it's Spartans as far as non-Nebraska stuff that I'm going to be paying close attention to next week.
It's good to be Mel Tucker. It's been good to be Mel Tucker for over a year now. That's for sure. Brandon, as always, we appreciate it. We'll enjoy the coverage from Indianapolis, and we'll talk to you next week on Wednesday.
Sounds good, guys. Thank you.
That's Brandon Vogel. Your 36 days from now, your starting right tackle will be?
I think I have to agree with Brandon. I think you have to go Ben Hart. That would be my guess.
This is his last gasp to solidify. If it doesn't work out,
I don't even know.
Where does it work out?
I would use this word as strong as solidify. I just don't know. I think 36 days from now, he's your starting right tackle. I don't know by mid-season if he is. I think he gets the first crack at it.
Yeah, it's an offensive line that there's still the great unknown of certain players who, you're encouraged, but they haven't played football much, or they're going to play a lot more football than they've ever played before. Yeah. You got to keep people healthy.
Yeah.
This would not be one of those years to have a Teddy Prohaska go down.
No.
And you know what? He said it when he was here in studio, and he is working towards that and hasn't had any setbacks. But the knee watch season is on. I mean, the knee watch season begins next week. And it's not is he going to be able to make it? Because I firmly believe that 36 days from now, he'll be at left tackle, and he's a Sunday guy. But that is kind of one of those storylines that you're probably not talking about, that maybe you gotta pay a little bit attention to, is that he is secure to go, that he can play a fairly good amount of snaps 36 days from now, and turn around and be able to play the following Saturday, play the following Saturday before you get some time off. Because that right there, that 4-game stretch would be the most amount of football he has played at Nebraska. Remember, the Northwestern game was the start, got injured in the Michigan game. But he's, I was hear Donovan Raiola talk about him last night. No concern of a setback or anything, but he's a guy you got to keep upright and at his position and healthy, and maybe manage where he can play a fairly good amount of snaps early, get a week off, and that he's good to go to play all 12 games, or as Donovan Raiola said last night, maybe 15.
That's super optimistic on his part. If let's say it's not Benhart, where does your head go?
Well, then you'd be Corcoran.
Yeah.
But, I mean, for me, when I say the last gasp for Benhart is, if he's not playing there, where's he going to play somewhere else that he's going to get the same amount of snaps?
Well, he's gotten his opportunities in the past, and just it hasn't looked the way you would want it to.
We need guys to see other. Donovan Raiola strikes me as somebody who, first of all, well liked among the staff, is good relationship with strength and conditioning. Which, if I'm the head of strength and conditioning, me and my offensive line coach, we got to be in lockstep. Me and my defensive line coach as well.
Both line coaches.
We got to be best friends,
yep.
And I got to be excited about what you're doing with your guys when I turn them over to you, and vice versa. That maybe the impact of a Donovan Raiola who came into a room that, he's a whole different guy. You got some loyal guys that were in that room,
sure,
that saw the friction between your former offensive line coach and your head coach, trying to figure out where are we going here. Now we got a whole new guy that he does things a little bit differently, but talks some of the same language and wants us to lead the room. That you've had to make that transition. So in some ways, he may have had the hardest job, because he's also coaching a position where there's the least amount of faith that that's going to be a strength of Nebraska's team this upcoming season.
Well, and he was probably also the assistant that was brought in with the most question marks around him, right?
Well, just because of his resume.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
But he's also somebody that strikes me as the impact of what Donovan is trying to do with his offensive lineman may not be seen until like a next year or the following year, with the whole package, that you're going to work with what you have now, and guys that you like but just haven't played much football, you're going to try and work this year getting them up to speed with your fingers crossed that your starting 5, 6, or 7 stay healthy. It'll also come back to the man in the middle that we'll talk to Vers coming up in the next hour, is you don't have Cam Jurgens.
Yeah.
You don't have Cam Jurgens. You don't have somebody on your roster that can do what Cam Jurgens did.
Yeah,
So
there's an athletic difference there between him and everyone else.
So there's a Trent Hickson where can't be Cam Jurgens, but can he be consistent enough where we don't even really talk about Trent Hickson at all this season?
Yeah,
I think good, bad. We don't really talk about him, and he just kind of goes about his business.
I think that would be what you're hoping for. Maybe you get an occasional, hey, who's playing pretty well right now, Trent? That would. The less you talk about your center, probably the better. I don't, the amount that we talked about Cam Jurgens over the last couple of years was largely negative, especially the first couple. So I think you would want to not notice him, I think would be the ideal there.
All right, Mike Sauter's coming up here in a little bit, Schaaf and Vers, before we finish out the week. We'll get some emails here in a quick little segment when you return on Sharp and Betting in the morning, 1620 The Zone.
Ocean State job cares. They understand that.
1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and the 1620 The Zone app.
So here in Omaha today, you have Sheryl Crow, you have Lyle Lovett, you have Poison. Mm-hmm. I'm sure I'm missing somebody. Nats David emails us in the Equitable Bank inbox. He said Weird Al. Weird Al is at the Lead Center in Lincoln tonight.
In town? Or in Lincoln?
In Lincoln at the
Tonight?
Lead Center. Yes, Weird Al Yankovic.
You have a favorite Weird Al song?
I do, and I can see the video in my head.
Describe it.
He's a rabbi. Jewish.
Amish Paradise?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Amish Paradise is the best one. Although...
I should say rabbi.
An Amish man?
He's an Amish man.
White and Nerdy was pretty funny. That was a pretty good one, too.
I tried to book Weird Al Yankovic to perform at the Hammond Stadium in Fort Myers.
Did you?
Because he does the minor league baseball tour. And by the way, he goes from Lincoln to Mankato, Minnesota tomorrow. He costs a fair amount of cash.
Yeah,
I thought I could get Weird Al for like $5,000.
No,
not even in the ballpark.
No, he makes a nice living doing what he does.
How old do you think Weird Al Yankovic is?
Well, he's got to be in his 50s, isn't he?
Well, he was famous in the... I bet he's clocking in at least the 60s.
Has he released anything new? He's 62.
Oh.
The last one I remember was when Iggy Azalea first got big. Like 2015-ish is the last one I remember.
I missed the Weird Al show. Amazing Daniel, who we all know, has been confused as Weird
Mistaken
Al.
for Weird Al.
Before we get to Mike Sauter here, I have some disappointment to share with everybody.
Okay.
Because I know I'm not alone here.
All right.
You know that when you get an email and it says thank you, and you look who it's from, it's the dreaded Masters rejection email.
Oh, no.
Thank you for your 2023 ticket application. We have now completed the selection process for available tickets to the Masters Tournament, Augusta National's Women's Amateur, and Drive, Chip, and Putt National Finals. Unfortunately, your entry was not selected this year. As a thank you for your patronage and loyalty, we would like to extend an exclusive sneak peek of the 2022 Masters Tournament official film. Watch the trailer below for your first look, reliving all the best moments of the 86th Masters, including Tiger Woods' return to Augusta National and Scottie Scheffler's dominant journey to his first green jacket.
Gee, thanks.
My condolences, Gary.
This is 12 straight.
So that was just a regular ticket, right?
For any of the week.
Have you tried, like, applying for a media credential?
I don't think that's going to happen.
You just throw it all at the wall and see if it sticks.
We would have to have a connection there.
Yeah.
I need Gooch to play at the Masters.
That's true.
But then I'd want to be like, maybe
you don't want to be
caddy
able to like cheer or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, be a fan. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a tough.
I almost didn't want to click on this. I was just going to send it straight to the elite box.
Yeah, to the trash.
I mean, it is a kind of beautiful picture of Amen Corner.
Well, at least they let you down gently as they could.
And they did. Just says the Masters from the email.
At least it
says ticket application update. I would like to know one day what it says in the subject line when you do win.
I mean, you got to throw a congrats out there, right? Congratulations, you're a winner.
It's like an MP3 of Jim Nance saying, "Congratulations, enter name."
And there's a part of me that's selfish that if they would have said, "Hey, you won for the Drive, Chip, and Putt National Finals," I'd have been like, "Oh, no, I don't want to go to that."
Yeah, it would be cool just to go to Augusta, right, in general. But yeah, that's not really the part of the lottery you want to win.
Now, there is the part of the media that the media on Monday, they have a lottery. I mean, us three don't have connections where we can hop on the plane at TAC Air and head to Augusta and play and come back. They do have a lottery for the media on Monday that are covering the Masters. Mm-hmm. So you put the clubs in the car,
Just in case.
Just in case I'm going to be selected. And then the course is set up the same way, and you get to play on Monday.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, so it would be worth it to try and go down as media if you could.
Yeah, or it would be nice if we knew somebody that listens to the show, that has a connection, that maybe is a member, that takes a lot of people from around here down, like in May and June and July and August.
Just dropping some hints out there.
Phone hasn't changed, email address hasn't changed.
Alright, so since it's been a long time since I played this, completely forgot the buttons and somehow didn't wreck. So we landed here, obviously, how we wanted to, safely at Olafsvik Airport in Iceland. And this, as we roll down the hill here, this is where we will take off from next time. We're going to say this landing was a success. We're going to go back to our slower plane next time. I don't even know what buttons I'm supposed to be hitting right now. There we go. We're going to go back to our other plane that I know a little bit better. And my plane kind of has a mind of its own right now. But we're going to call this good, and next time we will take off from Iceland here. Next time on Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 World Tour.